Ethan, are you muted?
Yes, and my camera's different. Nice. Great
Mm.
start.
Mhm. Are we live?
Yep.
Nice. Hey. Yeah. Perfect.
It's the best way to start.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
great. Got
Well, I just
the stream title wasn't changed, so we're still on gaming with the kids.
we'll drop it and change it.
You can change it without dropping.
Okay.
Well, while I work on that, Justin, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
I would absolutely love to do that. Hey everyone. This is a point of inspiration where we discuss tabletop RPGs, learn how to use streaming services as well as third-party programs to help us stream those services. uh, I'm Justin.
I am Evan.
And I am Ethan.
Yeah. Wow. So this was a pretty good start so far to what we got going on.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely love it.
Adds flavor.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody who might be watching this later or now or in the disparate future where they find this like in a frozen chunk of ice, hundreds of years from now or thousands of years from now after the like reptile apocalypse. Is that what this one's about? Is this one about my theories on the reptile apocalypse?
Mm.
Probably.
Yeah, this is the conspiracy episode.
This is that what this one is? Oh, perfect. I've been thinking about this all week. um, just know that we're trying, and you can't be any worse at it than we are. So, you know,
It's true.
you can do this too. Uh, Today, what we're going to be talking about is, oh, actually, do you have it uh set up how you want it yet, Ethan?
Um, I mean, I think a bunch of things went wrong.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So, we'll just continue and I just won't care.
Okay.
I'll fix. I can fix the title and stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Yeah, look at that teamwork. That's what it's all about. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is a point of inspiration. Uh, we are the creators of Mortal Woes, um, and we all have pretty interesting kind of backgrounds at how we came to do this. Um, I had a wild idea a couple years back to play D&D with some friends and make a place where we could all hang out. Um, and I think Ethan, you were one of those people who kind of like started that out and naturally brought in Evan.
Yeah, for sure. He's been playing a lot longer than I have. And I had a world. He had a world that was been established for what, 10 years or so, you said? Longer than that?
2008.
Yeah, a long time.
Around there. Yeah.
2008. That was like
Well,
not to
I mean,
date you. You mean what? Go ahead.
that's when I started playing in that world.
Oh,
Oh,
so
so it
it's
was
been
even
longer.
before then. Like this is something that, yeah.
So the people I started playing with, they're they technically took it over from their parents. Now it was also
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
it's been remodeled multiple times since then, but
Hmm.
if it wasn't for their parents, then they may not have mortal woes really
Hmm.
in the long scheme of things.
I still think that we would. I still think that we would.
Well,
Maybe not.
right, maybe I was meant as in what it is now.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
We could have had some other name, or
Yeah, of course.
we would be at one continent right now, not multiple, and an entire developed, semi-developed universe.
Yeah. Well, or even like, so whenever I first had this idea, I was like just one play group. I like scoured my friends to figure out people who would actually want to play this game because I started playing 20 years ago, and I hadn't really had like a solid play group and like really been playing um for like kind of like what you have, Evan, which was every week and for years. And I wasn't doing that. I was moving around to different play groups, moving around with different people. So I never really had that. And so I was like, I want something solid. I want something we're gonna play. And we're going on. I mean, we're 2 years now. Um, about 2.5 years. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. I get my time frames messed up. And
Good,
uh,
check it out.
yeah, I mean, we can fact check ourselves later, right? Who cares? I mean, um, and so um, from that came, like, this inspiration to design this like really like we had so much creative energy, this really like pedantic structured game of like what magic items everybody can have and like a West Marches style game. Hence the name the Dread Marshes, right? Or the West Marshes, hence the name the Dread Marches is what we named it originally, right? Um and from that, um I think that's whenever, as that went on and it kind of failed really. Um Ethan, you started to have this idea of your own homebrew world, right?
Yeah, after I played through my first game with you, I was basically like, yep, I'm going to make my own world. Make my own story, make my own world. Yeah, that's just how I like to go about things. I like making things, creating things. I get all these ideas from all the great things that I've seen, like Lord of the Rings, these cool video games that we get all this inspiration from, and I'm like, man, I want to make something cool like that, and D&D is the perfect place to do that.
And I'm
But
glad that it was like I did it and you were like, well, if this fucker can do it, then I can do it. I'm glad I was like that boost for you. You also, Evan, can't you see the inspiration, like the Lord of the Rings inspiration in his world where like all the races are
Yes.
separate? Like it's super like speciesist, Uh,
I feel like that's a very, I don't want to say it's a very common, but
it's very
there's always, it
traditional.
seems, yeah, a lot of world, like even if you look at games like EverQuest and
Mm,
World of Warcraft and
mm-hmm,
other just fantasy worlds, period, I guess there's always like the capitals of each race, and then there's like
mm-hmm,
the town somewhere, typically in the middle, that's like where everyone's welcome.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that like that all comes from that like original like Tolkien fantasy, that
Yeah.
original the original like platform of the big, the big TTRPG D&D. Um it was very much, like from that. And then I think uh as as Numestria, which was Ethan's homebrew continent, began to grow and we began to play games and we began to get it went from us like him running a game and me playing or us playing, to us running separate games even. Because we just started generating, we just had bigger play groups, we had more and more people wanting to play. that's whenever I noticed the mortal woe. Now I was moving at the time, and we had a lot of moving parts on my end, so I'm actually a little bit unsure as to like the whole idea of taking your. There it is. That looks good. Evan, I'm a little unaware of this whole idea of taking um Konu, right, is the name of the continent you came from. Your, 15-year long running game, and bringing it in and combining this together. Like, what was that? I mean, how did that happen?
I think this came about because me and Ethan would collaborate just ideas for each other's games or things that we just thought were cool for either person's world. And Ico, one of the like main DMs of where I usually play,
The
we've
Iconoclast, right?
all, well, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
Uh, so Ico we've always discussed like the other continents on the planet, and we've had player characters from other continents, but because of the war, like no one's ever been able to make it back to their own homelands or this or that or whatever little minor like a character story development like that had to do is how they got there.
There's been a lot
That's a
happen
whole
in
nother
your world.
right.
There's a lot that's
And
happened in this
but no,
world.
everything's always happened on our continent, and but we've
Yeah.
always known there's more outside, and but we just never we spent so long just developing every little tidbit of
Mhm.
Galabad, and then I was like,
Galabad, that's it.
well,
Yeah. Konu's the planet, right? Konu's the actual planet.
Konu is the universe.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad.
So the universe of Konu.
Morta is the
Morta is the
is the
planet.
is the actual world. Yeah, yeah. But okay, so like, he had this continent of the world, and you guys spent from the time that you were children to the time that you were adults kind of working this out.
Yeah, pretty
And
much
and it
most of our players have all been the same. So we've all had tidbits of, you know,
yeah.
different characters came from different locations and helped develop that area, kind of a
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah,
But
which we
then
tend to
with
do as well.
Ethan's, yeah, with Ethan's continent, I don't know, like I talked to Ethan, like, what do you think? Like, what do we put ours on the same like world, and then that helps both of us of developing the bigger planet, or
Mhm.
universe.
Yeah.
And I talked, and Ico was all for it,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, well, why don't we give the universe a name? Like Forgotten Realms has their
Mhm.
name, Dragonlance has their universe name, and we're like, well, if it's Morta for mortal kind, how about the mortal woes?
Hmm.
Mortal woes.
The mortal kind. I actually use that's interesting that you say that. So I use in a lot of my uh talks about what happens to people um in this inside um in this universe, in this universe. I use the mortal coil often to describe like being on the on the material plane, and then like what happens after. So like that mortal coil kind of thing, I think. So that's cool. I like that. That's the really
Yeah.
interconnectivity. And so yeah, so you guys decided to combine it.
Yeah, and that's
And that was that.
that was pretty much that so far. We've discussed ideas of uh, when
Combining
said continent
connections.
knows about the other one, and
What
just having
ages we're in, what time frames. That's all.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
And this
Like,
brings a part of the Omega Arc situation and the Hydraverse, and
oh my God.
yeah.
So much
So
lore drop.
where are
But
we?
but I think what's important is I think kind of what's important about that is, and we'll get into all that too, right? We'll get into like lore dumps, and we'll get into like kind of making the timelines and streaming it as time goes on. But I think what's important is the idea that we can just, you know, we can take what what creative and imaginative spaces, and bring them together and involve anybody who wants to participate, you know? And it's not hard, It's not hard to have the confluence of the ethereal gate crashing around Thalismar or whatever the hell has happened in your world, right? And have
Right.
like all this lore. It's not hard to do that and then also be like, so I drew this picture of a bean and I drew mountains on it, and this is where my world exists, and just combining them together and them to be great spaces to to play games in, you know? Um, and I just that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's just so awe-inspiring for me. Um, like I know that I was glad to have that from you guys, by the way, because I cannot make a whole freaking continent. I get too into it. If I try to make a whole continent, it would be a pages of a notebook that I never looked at again for a while. I need something smaller. I need something more personal. I need something more in-game to really express in that space. And it's so nice to work with you too because um Evan, you have so much play experience. You have the most experience I think out of anybody that I've ever encountered in D&D. And then Ethan, you have such a great like mind for getting it on paper and making, like boop, 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 this is how it is. Yeah, yeah, right, Evan? Like it's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mhm. And it
Like
just being
if you ever met Ethan like in your first game, you would think he's, you know, this is like he's been playing for years.
hmm hmm And that, you know what that comes from? And that comes from a good community of people. That comes from the people
Right.
around you and like showing those tips and tricks and showing like what they've learned. So I could never teach you how to make a continent, right? But that's not what he took from me to make his continent. And and so like and Evan, you could probably teach us everything you've been playing for ever, you know.
Yeah, I don't know
Still gotta
how.
ask what some rules are though.
The rules don't matter. We're not here for the rules,
The
everybody. I'm gonna tell you
rules,
right now.
boo,
Like if you're a
rules.
rules lawyer, we'll hang out for a while because
Only a
there's probably
rules
nobody here.
lawyer when I'm a
But
player.
yeah, exactly. When I'm about to die. But no, man, but the rules are there to spark your imagination, to help you, to help set boundaries for creativity.
I think when it does come to world creation, though, it's good to have one of each of us, right?
hmm
Because you need somebody that can build the world, and then you also need somebody to bring the world to life, right? I can make all the worlds that I want, but if you decide to go visit a place and there's nothing to it besides a name and a place on a map, then what good is it? You need somebody to go into depth in these small places to flesh them out, to bring them to life, to give them a history, to give them uh, plants and flora that are common in that area, to give them um, ethics, different
Tools to
societies
play
that's
with.
established there, right?
Yeah, things that make it feel real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so our talking point today, by the way, is there any? Oh, Evan, you're cut off, homie.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to my children.
Oh, okay. Um, so so we could talk about, I mean, this is literally the world of infinite imagination. So there's so many things we could go on. But today I think we wanted to focus on what was it again? Evan? I mean Ethan? What's our main focus here this time? I'm already lost. I'm
Oh, you're good. Talking
ADHD.
points. So the first one,
Oh, character
not
development
not
though.
word building, yeah, but character development.
Character development.
What is character
yeah.
development? Wikipedia or
Oh God. Okay.
not
Give us the
Wikipedia.
wiki. Give us the wiki, homie.
Merriam-Webster.
Webster.
Beep beep boop
Merriam-Webster. Yeah,
boop.
there it is.
We beep boop.
uh-huh.
Text exported. Character development is the process of creating fictional characters with the same depth and complexity as real life human beings.
Mm.
So I'm just going to go with the first point that you created here, Justin. So maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah. Let's
So
get in the weeds, guys.
creating.
Are we excited about it? Evan, you ready? You ready for some
Evan
character development?
is overflowing with excitement right now.
I know,
So,
dude. That's it. Hey,
spilling out.
out.
You think that picture in the background is really like fire and fireflies dusting off into the wind? That's actually emitting from Evan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's like a meditative state. I like that.
So
Potential.
this is a 3-part point here.
Okay. Let's start with the
crea-
first.
Creating our NPCs for a story.
Okay. How we create NPCs for a story.
So you created this point last night, so I'll let you kind of
Mm-hmm.
elaborate and let us know where you want to take this.
Yeah. So, I think you really hit on it to begin with, and that was saying that you have a place on a map, right? And you could you have its name, you have its location, and then you could really do some of that grindy kind of numbers generation stuff. You could be like, okay, so they export this much, or they import this much, or there's this exact amount of people who live here, this number of houses, you draw each house. And you give your players a map of it, you put their tokens on it, and you could put little pictures of people on there, and they could walk up to them, and they could have this moment of like walking up to the person with the exclamation point, right? Or they could have this moment of walking up to a person that has a list of blacksmith items, which is cool, but we already have that, and we have it way better than I think any of us could ever present. Way more exhilarating and enticing, and push the button, get some dopamine. And that's in every MMO, every role-playing game is so much more exciting than us, like, making like a pen and paper version of it. So what I like to do is I like to give these characters, these people that the players interact with, life. And for me, it's really fun because I'll have players tell me, like, hey man, so dude, when I was talking to Velma earlier, I had no clue, like, that she was so upset. I didn't realize that her past was so traumatic. And then I'm like, I'm Velma, right? Like, I am that person. And he's like, no. You're the DM. I've literally had somebody say, no, you're the DM. Velma is, this orcish warrior with a mohawk. Like, no, Velma's somebody else. You're the DM. Velma is the one that was, had that kind of personality. And so I think it's important. It's fun to interact with characters that make the world you're playing feel real, because the players themselves love their characters so freaking much. That's like, if everybody in the party died, oh, okay, there we go. If everybody in the party died, they would almost like not care, as long as they were alive, right? It would be they would tell the next people they meet about how all the party members died. They love their characters. So having characters that they can interact with, that feel as real as the things that they love, that they interact with, that they interface with the game with, is important.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, whenever you build PCs, do you have like or NPCs? Sorry.
As forever DMs, they're just PCs to us,
Yeah,
right?
they're just PCs.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain process or way you go about it, providing these characters with anything? Do you like make a list? Do you give them personality traits and their own ideals and bonds and things like that? Um,
How do you feel about them when you make a blacksmith or a shopkeep or something? Like, how do you what's your thoughts here?
So to be honest here, some of my like main NPCs are just ones from before I started DMing, like in Galabad. Like I think a couple of you have met Joylene.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember
The
Joylene of the
bartender?
Oh yeah,
Adventurers
she
Guild.
was
Yeah.
yeah, the Adventures of the
The
Bard. And you immediately placed
the
one of your characters right into the Dread Marches, which I love. That was so yeah.
the retired Mithril adventurer, orc, barkeep,
Mhm.
basically patron of the Adventurers Guild. But so a lot of them are like NPCs, like her specifically is like NPCs I dealt with as a player,
Oh, so this is somebody
before.
you had already encountered.
Correct. And
Nice.
so they were already in place in that world, so I didn't want to what do you call it? Redo it.
hmm
And then
So you were
I guess
so
my
you were like taking PCs from this is like the combining of the worlds thing too, right? You're like, oh, who can I take from here and put it in the new world to make to combine them together too, right?
and then I actually used other people's player characters when you guys have played in my sessions as NPCs you've met or like met like or dealt with.
Mhm.
Because there's a couple times where you guys have ran into a couple other adventurers, or other players run into adventurers, and so
Mhm.
other campaigns I've been a part of where the players were playing adventures in the Adventurers Guild, so I'll use their characters as NPCs. Uh, but in
And
terms
that's
of just like,
some
hmm,
and that's some real like trust between you and the people you're playing the game with to be like,
hmm,
you can take my long-standing player, because again, players love their characters so much. It's their favorite thing in the whole fucking world. You know, they don't want the swords. The dragons are cool, but this character has to be the one doing it. Like they love their freaking characters. So to be able to be like, that's some good trust between your groups.
yeah,
My in-person game last night, they had a visitor. It was the Owl's Den is a library in the Bramblethorn Village that I made for him. That is basically like a module that's taking place in the Elden Vale. So they're my guinea pigs. But in the Owl's Den is this
Aren't they all though?
high elf, snooty librarian. Can you guess what his voice is?
Oh, the snooty librarian high elf. Is
Let's
it
just say it's
Bolt?
a the dwarven barbarian and this half elf fighter came in, and they were looking for the
Oh.
inn and not to read books. They were just looking for a drink. Oh, that's okay. You probably can't read anyways.
Oh no, you took.
So,
Oh my
but
god.
the inn's over there, right around the corner. Come back if you feel like having some nursery rhymes. They're on the back shelf towards the right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. And so you're talking about one of my characters
Yes.
that I made, one of my PCs that I made,
Mm.
Idrid, who is
That everybody hated.
everybody hates this guy, and I kind of made him that way. I kind of made him for everybody to hate him. He's 20 intelligence, order of scribes wizard, so he's like, the nerdiest of the wizards. And I went with that like, yeah, it's this German voice. It's like so crazy. That's his catchphrase, by the way, when you use him. Oh yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah. And he's so like disparaging and putting people down because he's so smart and everybody else is so stupid. And he's just, it's that I understand that you cannot even comprehend what is even happening here. And so let's skip past the part where you're confused and just let me solve it because we have things to do. So he's like very pragmatic, but he's like an asshole at the same time. And the trick to making that character hated is because you want this dude to goof, right? You want to rag on this guy. So the trick to that is, I would have him do strength-based things, right? Before he would like be disparaging. Oh, it's so heavy. Oh, can you use your barbaric hands maybe with your ollie? That was very good for that, you know. And so maybe this is something that you can do. Open this barrel for me so we can look inside. Yeah, because this would be the best task for you, for somebody like you. And so, he's like, oh no, I can't open it. Or you make these moments to where he can really be goofed on. But what makes him hated is he's not wrong about him being the only one to read the scroll or something, or like you can't read. Oh, I can see that you're having trouble reading that. Please don't even. Why are we wasting time? You cannot read this language. It is not common. Okay, hold on 1 second. Yeah. Of course I can read this language. Are you kidding me? Don't even have to ask. And mechanically, all that's true, right? And so it's like, fuck this dude. And it's now I will say this. If you decide to play a character like that, do not play this character with new players. Don't play it with anybody that you don't know. And don't play it with people that you just kind of know, right? You have to be friends with the people you play this with.
They will
Because
associate you with your character.
Do what?
So they will associate you with your character.
Exactly. Idrid got me kicked out of an actual play group, because I was helpful. Justin was helpful. Justin brought pizza. Justin brought beer. Justin was yes-anding. Idrid was an asshole. And they interface with Idrid we hang out for 4 hours. They're hanging out with Idrid for like 3, 2 hours. Half the time it's Idrid. The other half of the time it's Justin. But because it's a group, they're not hanging out with Justin for 2 hours. They're spending maybe 30 minutes of that time as I throw in a quip or make a joke. So, but in the game, it's so impactful and it takes up a lot of space. And it's like, yeah, fuck this dude. So I got kicked out of a group on critical fail. Is what we're gonna call this one, critical fail. Critical success on the character idea. Critical fail on the implementation of that.
No, sounds like a good time.
To get kicked out of a group of people as you're trying to make friends.
Playing that character.
He is fun. I think that's probably why. And one of the reasons he's easy to grasp, right? He's easy to grasp. His voice is very different. The way his voice bounces is different than the way that you speak or anybody else speaks. So he's very, this is Idrid. When you hear it, it's Idrid. And then you also have, so it's an easy thing to just grab and use, and he's kind of an asshole. He's a really, really smart asshole. And that's especially when you're the DM, you already know everything. So he's a good plot device for knowledge and stuff like that. If I can ask, why did you choose Idrid?
So just building my NPCs for this place. How I create my NPCs is I'll think of a name. I'll think of what race they are, and then I start making characteristics that kind of give them a unique take. So
Okay.
Sometimes I'll just write down what their voice is or who I'm pulling inspiration for their voice.
Okay.
So, I'll do like the seductive vampire versus Michael Caine or, things like that. And then, for years it was German something. What's
The
that?
seductive vampire?
So like a Michael Caine as a seductive
Yeah.
vampire.
No.
Oh yeah, it's yeah.
Not together,
we
not together.
need that.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, that's a stretch goal. That's a stretch goal.
Next time, maybe.
Actually, I made Niles the innkeeper.
Nice.
They don't have a
Nice.
connection with Niles, but the first thing he
That's
did, he played a trick on him. He got him to look
nice.
behind him, and then whenever they turned around and looked back at Niles, he's like, hee hee.
Mhm.
That sort of deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Playing tricks on players is fun, and there's a right way to do that. But we can get into that later.
yeah. So I don't really know where we're going, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask a question to kind of shift gears, if you guys don't care.
I actually, but well, before we shift gears, Evan, I wanted to get a little bit more input on. So you said you like pulling from that. Is there anything else that you like that you do to inform your NPCs? Because I know you're
Oh, yeah,
newer
that's
to
right.
DMing, right?
Yeah, I've DM'd a couple times.
Okay.
Two
How many? You played much more, I think, but you've DM'd.
Correct. What was
I-
it? When was the Tower of Trials, Ethan? 2020?
No,
I don't know about
2021
dates.
ish. Yeah. So you had the
So
Tower
that
of
was my
Trials.
first. That was my first campaign. I DM'd a few one shots for practice, and when the Dread Marches kicked off,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did another like mini module to introduce Yuan Su.
Yes. Which was
But
good. Which was really good. It had great theming in it. Really like set the scenes and set the kind of main themes of Yuan Su. It was really good especially for that. Like
so
the world building thing.
NPCs, similar to what Ethan said, I don't usually go with a name first. I think of
Yeah, that's
I
a
guess
wild man thing right there.
I go with the personality first, typically, or like what the intent of the NPC is, or for.
Like a purpose,
Um,
like if they have a purpose.
yeah, right. And if they have like an actual purpose, that's when I deem this is like full development worthy kind of a thing. Like this is someone they're going to interact with multiple times. That could happen to any NPC. Really, it just depends on the players, I guess. But
And
that's when it's like
and I actually
when you get
think
to wing it. That's the wing it situation. All right, this guy.
I
Oh
actually
yeah, it's this
so
dude
I
from
I
last
have
time.
several tools. I have several tools for that. And I think that, like you say, it depends on your players, but also those players will cling to the things that are interesting to them,
Yeah,
And I think that as we go through this, one of the things that one of the goals of this should be is how to easily make any of your NPCs have like full-bodied character, even if it's only a thought or a sentence or a word that makes them like where players might cling to them, like that'll before you like, okay, so this person's really important, I'm gonna fully flesh them out. Critical fail. I've done that, and they hated the person, or they didn't even care for him. Had all this like backstory written out, and they're like, okay,
yeah.
thanks,
Yeah.
but I think we're
This
gonna
guy
do something
sucks.
else.
But then the
Yeah.
random guard at the front gate is their favorite person to talk to.
Mhm. Or like, yeah, like the guard, it's like, well, what's your name? Right, my name, and
Name's
and so,
Philip.
yeah, yeah, uh, and like and being, I think like being authentic in game is another cool thing. Like being authentic for like, if you're surprised by what the players are doing when they say that, it's okay to like take a beat and be like, the actual NPC is surprised. Or if you're excited to introduce yourself, it's okay for the NPC to be like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Oh God, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've been following you guys. Okay, really excited about this. It's okay to take that authenticity too into that. Um, you know, uh, and I do want to at some point. You said, Ethan, you wanted to guide us somewhere. I did want to talk about voices, if if you know, at some point, if you want to work that in, or if you want to do that next.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see, where was I going with? Oh, I was wanting to ask, what do you guys, how do you guys go about building your own characters? What is the first thing that you do? Do you do you imagine the character do you want to play? Do you go through and choose a class and then build your character around that? Um, do you create a story for yourself and then build your character and develop it that way? What is your guys' processes on how you go about building your own PCs whenever you get to play?
Mhm. Evan, you've made the most, I think.
So there's a couple of ways typically I've drawn like inspiration from, I guess, characters from stories or movies, or
And what are some of those inspirations that you what are you?
Slip Pipes. You remember Slip Pipes, right? Slip Pipes McGillicuddy, the
Well, what do you sound
he
like
was
again? What do you sound like? Oh, yeah, go
uh,
for it, man. What do you sound like again?
Slip Pipes McGillicuddy.
Oh, love this dude.
He's the Goblin Rogue, Goblin Assassin.
Mm.
But so for him, I was thinking of, like, remember like there's old Bugs Bunny skit bit where all the different old time gangsters were there, like Babyface, and then they had like the real cartoony version, like it was like a full grown man with a baby head. And so I was just thinking this funny like mobster nickname, and
Split
then I
Pipes
thought, what's the
McGillicuddy, great
came
fucking name, by the way.
and but his front, then I had to think, well, he's if he's like a assassin or like gangster or whatever, then he's got to have a front. So it's not Slip Pipes because he slits your pipes. It's because he's a plumber.
It's like his
And,
trade. I love how you took not enough people used tool proficiencies and backgrounds, that not enough people do that, and I'm so glad you did that.
But so if you need him to fix your plumbing, you can do that. But he can also
Yeah,
got
fix your
somebody that
lady's
needs their
plumbing.
pipes slit.
Ha!
He'll
You know,
slit
if you're
your
not
pipes
careful.
too.
Yeah.
But,
Hey.
But
And
then I was
so,
like, okay,
and so,
what's a good race for that?
mhm.
I don't
And
know.
did you do
For
that
me,
mechanically?
for some reason, goblins and halflings are gangsters, and I don't know why. But when I think of gangster, or like that New York voice, Jersey,
Yeah.
Staten Island, it's
That
you're either a halfling. It's like Jersey.
Mhm.
I think it's Jersey is
It's a Jersey thing.
like
Hey,
Jersey's
forget
like
about it.
Jersey's
Forget
Goblin,
about it.
and halflings are Staten Island.
Okay. Oh,
so-
yeah. Hey, cross the tunnel.
I'm walking
But,
here.
And I
I'm
love that.
walking here.
Hey, I'm fucking walking here. All right. I love that you used. I love that the first accent that you went for, by the way, and I think a lot of people don't even like consider this, is an American accent. And I most people I play with are American, and it's just this. It's an American accent, and to take an accent that and to kind of blow it out of proportion or whatever, one that you've heard a bunch, what it sounds like, is, I think that's awesome. We should, I think more characters should use an American accent instead of using a like hodgepodge of like European style accents, which is what we traditionally go for, Yeah.
Like how
right?
dwarves are Russian.
Dwarfs with their Irish accents. Or
yeah.
was it? Oh, what's my borscht? Yes, I am dwarf. I mine. Is problem with
the
this?
Irish, Scottish.
Yeah.
Any of
Yes.
those three.
I love that.
Pretty
the fact that I love the dwarf, like the Eastern European dwarves are probably my. I love that accent from the dwarves. I love using it for the dwarves. I think it's so funny, and it's so fitting. For it's not even fitting. It's just it's so fresh to me that I love using that for them. Um,
I think since
yeah,
they're
just for
always
me.
been used, I feel like in every setting or show or game that I played, that's why I kind of switched Numestrians to Words of Everfrost to be more Russian,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of change things up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
And I'm
not to
and I'm
say
glad you
that
did.
dwarves can't be with the Scottish or Irish accent, though.
I really think that that's what you are saying, though, for some reason. I don't know why. I really feel like you're taking a hard stance on this, and I don't know why. Like, we didn't talk about this before. I'm so sorry.
The dwarves are
This is
fucking
not.
Russian, okay?
This is not representative of all of Mortal Woes. Okay, I just want everybody to know that. Uh, I think so. Uh, the with me, I typically don't pick a voice first whenever I make a character. When I have a character idea, I try to find a trope that people know, right? The extremely smart asshole, like, and it's represented on TV. He's all, sometimes they're the antagonist, sometimes they're, like with Idris, they're definitely not the main character that you know and love and can see yourself as. It's like a side character that tags along. Um, but I pick something like that, and then I start running through it in my head, and I think what I try to make, and this is something that I'll keep hitting on, 6 truths, right? To make something real, you just need 6 true things about it. And as long as you keep those 6 true things for twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a habit. And as long as you do it at least 3 times with those 6 truths, that becomes who that character is. Um, so I had this idea of a character that was this is a player character again, right? Because this is like characters that I play, um, who was a real edge lord, you know, and I tried that with tiefling, warlock, dark and broody. And what I did with that character is I just started typing up a bunch of like basically one-liners that, you know, edgelords would say, like, you can't hide from me because I can see everything. Okay, that was a really bad one. Sorry. Like, um, the more I bleed, the stronger I'll get. You know, oh, like I can smell your fear from here. And that was okay, right? And I like went, and it's super fun. I went down a rabbit hole of like looking up quotes and sayings, but it didn't hit the mark, right? That didn't really hit the mark of what I wanted. So I revisited it, and I would say that if it doesn't hit the mark the first time, it's okay, revisit it. Like Slit Pipes is a great character, and I can't wait to see the next, not to say it didn't hit the mark, but I can't wait to see the next iteration of Slit Pipes where you already have your foundation and you spread it out. Um, so I was like, who's like a real edge lordy kind of character? I was like, oh, what about the kid and a kid, right? What about this kid, this like high schooler, teenager, early 20s, who wants to be tougher and darker than what they are? That's funny. This real like scrawny kid who thinks that they are like an MMA fighter, basically, or like they are the sword ninja, like the freaking like fedora wearing katana, I'll go out all this once, or I'll go out just this once. You wouldn't want to make me mad. And I was like, okay, so well, let's give him a voice. So what would be funny is if he was very serious. I wanted him to be dead serious. So what would be funny is I was like, oh, what if he had a lisp? What if he had a speech impediment? And so I decided to speak out of the corners of my mouth, right? But dude, what are you looking at? All right, you better be freaking careful with yourself because I am the Dark Lord. Okay, I've sold my soul to Satan, and if you're not freaking careful, okay, with the way you're talking to me, you're gonna freaking regret it. All right, I'm Cecil the Sorcerer, who was a wizard that told everybody he was a warlock. The whole backstory, his parents were 20th level adventurers and sent him to the best wizard in college, but he didn't want that. He wanted to be Cecil the Sorcerer 666, dude. I summon demons, man. Like, get out of here. And like this really like gatekeeper, um just guy that you can't take serious. All of his sorcerer spell or all of his wizard spells were themed like warlock spells, you know? So he would take all the darkest spells he could get. Um, and he had a proficiency. You get a tool proficiency in a gaming set from the background I chose, and I chose Magic the Gathering cards, which I named something else. Arcana the Convergence, or Arcana the Convention, instead of Magic the Gathering. But he would, at every point, he would try to teach people to play Magic the Gathering, and I would, instead of trying to actually teach, I'd be like, so listen, it's actually really simple. All you have to do is, okay, so there's like 5 different types of mana. Actually, there's 6 different types of mana. 7 if it depends on what set that you're actually using, but it's extremely simple. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna shuffle all your cards, and there's 16 different types of cards. And that's very important to remember. And so obviously, like making fun of tabletop RPG, or I mean of playing card games, which I love. But that terrible thing if you ever hear yourself explain it to somebody. And that was Cecil the Sorcerer. And he ended up being like a really fun guy. He died. He died. He got bit in half by a demon. He actually summoned a demon. On on purpose, accidentally on purpose, basically. He didn't know the hell he was doing. Called forth the wrong guy, and that dude was like, "Have you summoned me?" He's like, "Yes, Dark Lord, I'm Cecil the Sorcerer, and I have summoned you to this plane, and I am your master." And he's like, "Oh yeah, whatever, dude," and fucking bit him in half, or like gored him or something. Um. Uh-oh. Did I freeze? Okay. So yeah, like that's what I like to do. I like to take a simple idea. I had this idea of the guy on the front of a romance novel, and yeah, and I was like, who would he be? Oh, he's totally a knight, right? With his flowing hair. And I decided to, hello, my name is Santiago. It is very nice to meet you. The pleasure is all mine. And he's very formal and very like, super high charisma. This guy has to have a high charisma though, right? He has to be that charismatic character. So that's how I like to build my player characters. I don't even know, like Cecil, I didn't know he was a freaking wizard. I just knew he was a super nerdy dude who like thought he was tougher than what he is. And with Santiago, I don't know who Santiago is mechanically. I just know that he is this like Spaniard passionate love machine that is on an adventure. You know what? Encounters are part of his love. Protecting the weak is part of the things that I love. It is okay, because I will take you with me, and together we will ride into the sunset glorious. And they will write many songs about us that they will sing. That's how I like to do it. And sorry, I've taken up way too much time here. You guys got to stop me. We got to get.
We gotta stop him. I'm
stoppage.
gonna, I'll build I'll get a little soundbite or
A
something.
little sound
Justin
bite.
timer.
Justin timer. We need it, guys. Dude, guys, you already know I talk a lot.
We'll just start doing.
Oh God. Hey, at least I think what I'm saying is interesting or in depth, on
Oh
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
definitely on
Evan
point.
or Ethan, what was? But this is also like you were saying. This is the thing that I'm the best at as a DM, is like bringing life or whatever. So Ethan, what was some of the things that you do as you
Oh
build
gosh.
your characters?
Well, I don't have that many characters, I guess.
You
I
like
had I
funny
had
characters.
I had Oleron. Yeah, I usually like to add a little element of comedy,
You
typically.
like comical characters.
Um, I think my favorite part of Oleron was prestidigitation, but
It's amazing.
I mean, I was just trying to like make uh, illusory effects basically for the other players.
You were trying to make the world a more interesting and more vibrant place. You were DMing. That was that was your first character before you did. You were already DMing, like setting scenes and adding to the scenes that were there. Is really what you were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. I guess I don't really care for like big damaging spells and well, not big damaging spells, but I don't care about putting out the most damage, or I don't
Mm,
build my characters to do that sort of thing. I
mhm.
try to make them, you know, something neat as far as like either the story or their own story.
Mhm.
So, but that was when I first started, and now that I've DM'd for a little bit, my more recent way to go about it is I'm experimenting with like a longer character development, but it's hard because I don't really play in very long games, I guess. So I think I need to be in like a long term campaign for what I really want to do
Mhm.
to kind of play out. But so like your game on Sundays, I have this idea
Yeah,
for Kalinar to have this sort of extended development, but
I'm looking
I
forward to
I
that.
kind of dropped the ball like as soon as I started playing because I immediately just like adapted with the group, and
Yes.
I had Kalinar being this um, paladin clerical type that's grown up in a church his entire life, so he has like no outworld experience at all. And the first creature that he makes a connection with is Skitters, the bug with like no personality and
He has I mean a little
to
bit
him,
of
right? Because
yeah.
he's an insect creature. I can't.
He's been alive for a year, by the way. So like that character, his character has been alive for 1 year and
So
has lived their entire life in a swamp, and their only point of connection is a hag who is using them to lure people to her hovel, to her hut. So he has very limited understanding of, and that's like, it's so strange that you grabbed onto that
yeah,
character
so it's
because
probably a stronger connection than I originally thought. But that's my current plan right now is establishing some sort of connection with that character, and
okay,
we have our world experiences little to nothing, and I could tell immediately that he was standoffish, but that's not how Kalinar was brought up. He was brought up
mhm,
to, you know, take care of people or stand up for what he believes in. So
spread the word.
he's kind of, um, I don't know if it's necessarily showing Skitters the way, but showing him a way, I guess, of
Mhm.
what, friends could be like,
The
or
only way
what,
he knows
or
too.
what Kalinar thinks that friends should be like. So,
That's interesting. I like. We also concluded that he does not fuck.
whatever that means.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I have a few. I'll get inspired to create characters and stuff. I have mostly been not only going about that approach, but also just looking for random subclasses that people don't use, probably, or
Okay.
more so because, they're not the ones that deal like a million damage around or whatever.
We
And
haven't seen him on what's that like big, some of the like the the big YouTubers or the big you know, people who like break down the classes, you know, haven't seen them on the big channels, like being like, this is the optimal build.
Yeah, it's not. I don't. They're not. I'm gonna go basing my character creation off of S tiers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, something that can contribute to the story, maybe. Um,
I
but
think
yeah,
you hit
so
on
it's more
something
story
there.
focused, which also is, you know, tied to our talking points is building a story, building character, a character's story, and you know, tying them together instead of just making, you know, just building a character and throwing them to the DM and being like, here you go, figure it out.
Mhm. Figure it out. And I think that's one of the things that I, you know, would I look at when building a character too, is the first thing that I do is I ask the DM, and this is something that Brennan Lee Mulligan was talking about too. Say, when I get to play, I like to build. I want to build a character that is a part of your world, that is part of like driving your story forward, that is a part of what is happening, that is the character that needs to be in this story. And then he goes on to say like, oh no, I want you to play what you want to play. But that's the thing that I want to play. I want to play the character that is supposed to be here in you know, which can be, you know, slightly complicated. There's, you know, very complicated aspects of that. But in the center, it's the main character of the story, you know? Like you said, Bilbo is the character. He's the main character of like The Hobbit, and he does not want to be there. You know, he does not want to do this, but that doesn't mean that's not the case. He's supposed to be there, right? The whole adventure is catered around him being there, right? So the whole story gets told because he is there, and that's the character I want to do. So I try to find, you know, I've done the thing where I make like this really gnarly character, Idrid, and with a lot of personality, a lot of depth, a lot of people will remember Idrid. The people I got kicked out of are going to remember that one dude who was an asshole, right? But anybody who encounters Idrid will remember, you know, remember him, but he may not be the character you need for the story. And so I really try to look at that too, like, and then the other players, you know, Evan, if you know you're playing Slip Pipes McGillicuddy, and I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, you know, it's nice to meet you, Slip Pipes. My name's Ricky Two Sticks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I own like a secondhand pawn shop down the street. Yeah, Goblin, me too, man. Hey, what family you from? Ah, get out of here. You fucking kidding me? You fucking kidding? I know your cousin Jackie. Yeah. And then we're both like assassins and like whatever, hey, you know what I'm saying? If, that causes a couple problems. For one, like we're taking up the same space, but two, what if what if my character sucks compared to Slit Pipes? Justin's gonna feel like garbage. you know, People just like Slit Pipes more, and we made the same character. That's gonna suck. Um, and so they're gonna start going to Slit Pipes for other things, or maybe like I didn't talk to Evan about it beforehand. He's like, "The fuck, dude, you're stepping on my toes." Now there's contention, right? And we don't want that. Um, and so I think where you said Kalinar is a character that has like humble roots and wants to be a part of the group and wants to connect to the other characters and the world around them, the story. That's important. You don't want to make Idrid. You don't want to make the guy that nobody wants to be in the party, you know? Because you might not be in the party for very long.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think this would be a
So-
good time to. Oh, yeah. After
go ahead,
Evan, let's go to one of your segments that you were talking about, Justin. if
Oh,
you want
absolutely.
to.
Yeah.
So, Evan, after your talking point, we'll switch over to that.
Yeah. You got to cut in, man.
So Justin mentioned the characters that are supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So as a DM, how do you help make every character supposed to be there? Like, how do you make it to where everyone else doesn't feel like sidekicks to one main character?
Eh, that is a really good question. Did you want to go to a segment, or do you guys want to dive into that? You want to dive into this? What are you thinking?
Yeah, let's
What are
do
you
it.
thinking, Ethan? No,
I feel like
there was a
Ethan
thought
is-
that
E-
crawled
I
across.
feel like Ethan's really good at this. So that's
I
one,
think so
like,
too. I've
yeah.
been learning. I've been learning from him.
Oh gosh.
I think the first thing to that, Ethan, to let you collect your thoughts. The first thing to that is you make your character a part of the world. So if we are in a world where there's farmers everywhere, be a farmer. Or if you're in a fantasy world and there's a place, there's smiths everywhere. If it's like low fantasy, be a regular person from low fantasy, right? And that will immediately not set you out. Don't be a don't be like a demon that's fallen. Like an I'm gonna use don't be an angel that's fallen from heaven who half their body has turned into a demon somehow. And you're just trying to get back to heaven the whole time. Because your story all of a sudden is super fantastic compared to everybody else's, you know?
Are you
have
calling
this
out
bigger-
Judah right now?
I am called
Yeah,
well,
so-
and the reason is Judah's a child, and Judah's a child, and that's don't get me wrong, cool freaking story, like super cool story. I think we can all agree that's cool, but it's
Epic.
also it's super epic. That's the problem a little bit when you're starting out. Let's say in a base world, you're starting out at level 1. I prefer level 0. But you're starting at a level 1, you're starting at a low level, and you're just learning the fantasy setting. If every single person's backstory is something that epic, it calls forth a whole lot of, like, the DMs all of a sudden got to build a whole new world around how to make all these places fit. So the first place to start is, asking the DM what the world's like. And then telling them, I would like to be this. What can we do with it? And yeah, so, Ethan, has there been Eliza, I think, is a great example of that. I think Malik and, oh God, what was Chad's character's name?
Rofflin.
Rofflin. I think Malik and Rofflin, good examples of that. I think that sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna give more examples other than me and my wife's character. I was trying not to be narcissistic.
Evan, you mentioned something as well. Was there a character that stood out that I could maybe elaborate on as far as like tying characters and the stories together? Justin, your camera die.
Yeah, I'll turn it back on just 1 second.
Okay.
I think the only like examples I would have are from one of my first campaigns, but anytime I've ever played with you, I've definitely never really felt that way. But I also have no problem making a character that is, as long as I have fun with my character concept, I personally don't even mind like not being the hero that's pulling Excalibur to kill the final foe. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So I guess I don't really have like an example, but well, yeah, no, not really. But I know I've heard people I've heard people feel that way, and so I was just wondering like
Okay.
what tools or how you guys go about making people feel, because there is a main plot typically to a campaign.
Right.
You can venture out into other characters' little stories to help develop them, but
I guess
in terms of concluding the campaign, how do you make people feel all inclusive, I guess?
yeah, so I guess starting it off, you know, some characters will be built around the main story if the, sort of main idea is revealed. But if that doesn't happen, then you kind of have to create that or decide that on your own. And, you know, if people are building characters together, it makes it a little bit easier. Like if people go in like, yeah, we'll make people from the same order, we'll be like a duo or something. It's definitely easier to tie in those characters. I feel like you're probably always going to have at least one character, or maybe even a couple or a few, that's going to be like, man, with this character's backstory and everything, like it's going to be really hard to tie something in to really bring them a part of like the main story arc. But so I guess what I did with the Numestrian campaign is, instead of trying to make everyone be specifically tied to the main story, it's I don't know if this is even the right way to say or go about it, or if I'm just contradicting myself, but tying
No, you're doing a good job.
tying the main story arc to the individual characters' story arcs, I guess. So like with Eliza, the characters had a choice. They came to a metaphoric and a literal crossroads at the same time, to where they could either head back towards Farrell's Valley and march on, fight their way through to try to get to Carnea's Citadel, which is basically where you guys are doing right now in this mini war campaign. And then, while as they were making this choice, the old plot hook came flying towards Eliza with so part of her backstory was that her and her sister had ribbons that they shared, that they tied their hair with. And Eliza, before she left, which was Monica's character, gave her little sister her ribbon. And while they were at this crossroads, the little piece of the ribbon came flying down from the direction that Arl's Landing, her hometown, the other human city that's on the East Coast. You just seen like a torn piece of this ribbon drifting in the air, and whenever it came close enough, she was able to recognize it, and as she caught it, she could see that it was her sister's. So that kind of drew her to, think that something was in trouble. And whenever they got there, or everything was wrong, everything was strange, and her sister was turned evil, or something happened, and when they defeated her, there was a sort of this cinematic piece afterwards where Carnea appeared in like this spectral form, trying to take her soul, because she was the one that was possessing her. Basically like, Saruman and King Theoden, essentially. And then that's when the Shadow King was also introduced.
Rhaegorth, which I'm using in. I currently have a character in one of my games, who is a cleric of Rhaegorth, of this Shadow King, which was introduced in this game.
So he was introduced at that point, and as Carnea is trying to take Eliza's little sister's soul away, he stepped in, and Carnea backs off, and it almost kind of not cowers, but definitely, backs down as, a deity is literally taken shape in front of her as these sort of spectral visages kind of do this sort of measuring contest, and Dragor's ruler was just a little bit thicker, so to
So
speak.
you had, so with this game, right? This has definitely been your, this has definitely been one of the things that you have done. It was your first campaign that you ran. You ran it from level 1 to epic level, right? Kudos, by the way. That's a feat. It really is. I think, Evan, you've run a couple games, but have you? I don't think you've run any either from like 1 to epic level, have you? Oh no, the tower. You did the tower, right?
Yeah,
No.
it wasn't as long. It was more of a level per session. Like it was built to. It wasn't technically like an epic story, so they leveled quickly and got boons, and then it was like they were left with a decision at the end. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they
But I
I
think
think they went from 3 to 20.
And
so.
Numestria
So
was
you
only 1 to 10, or 2 to 10.
right. Oh, it was only to level 10. Okay. It took about a year to run, right?
I don't remember the time frame.
Okay. I think it was right around a year to run. And it was a long form epic, right? And I have yet to run a long form epic. It's just not. It's more difficult for me to do that. I tend to. I think kind of like with you, Evan. I tend to do the thing where it's like each time. Oh, you're done. Okay, now there's another world-ending thing to do. Oh, you're done. Okay, now there's another. Like this is gonna be super epic. This is gonna be super epic. It's hard to stack that unless you're in a tower, which is the perfect form for your story, by the way. The symbolism of that, it was perfect for it. But so you started at level 0, which is building these characters. You had one character who wanted to be a wizard that built magic items, right? And was that like the whole breadth of like that was his like kind of shtick, right? Then you had another character, I think Kevin's character probably gives. I think Kevin gives the least about into character creation. If I'm not mistaken.
Talking to me or Evan?
Ethan.
Okay.
Sorry, Ethan. Yeah, I'm talking about your Ethan. I'm talking about your game, your new Mestrian game, right?
Okay.
So you had Zolnan, who he wanted to be a wizard that made magic items, and that was like his concept for how he would like to move through the game.
Mhm.
That's an easy one to work with.
Right.
You had Kevin's character, Whisper, who didn't speak, was a kinku, so only like repeated people, which is that's taking on a whole nother thing for yourself. But also like was there much else behind that other than, hey, I just want to play and see what happens?
For Kevin's character?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was about it. He had like he did have long-term goal to be able to fly, and that's whenever I implemented the flying flocks and that whole tie. So they controlled like a courier system and had a transportation system, but deep within that sort of service that was provided, for transportation, there was also what Scribbles was tied with, which was like basically almost like the White Lotus, I guess. These group of people that seek to protect the lands like unnoticed or like a secret society.
A secret society.
Yeah. And, you know, that's what the Lonely Tower was. That was one of the places that housed one of the teleportation circles for them to be able to travel as like a meeting place. But,
And I think those teleportation circles is a common theme too. You know, the druidic circles. You know, like you can go anywhere in Numestria. That's been a step. You know, you've integrated that in. Okay, so that's a pretty easy thing to work with.
yep.
Then you had me, who made an entire order of monks that sole purpose was to deal with souls as they moved in and out of reincarnation and were, you know, in the lore it was you die, your soul gets reincarnated, and if you're pure, if you haven't like been tainted by the sins of the mortal coil, then you could be reawakened and you would remember all your past lives. You would go to the monk's order, you would train to do something, right? You just train to like guard the where souls go. The astral sea, I think is what I was calling it. You know, the place where souls go to be reincarnated. And I created like a whole like system of frickin' of like different styles of monks, people who would stay at the temple, people who would go out, you know, like a knight's order kind of thing. And so what was it like trying to integrate something that constructed, I guess you could say, into your world?
It's pretty seamless. I mean, so obviously the main inspiration is, you know, the Spell Plague. After playing Neverwinter,
You had a theme, a main
Right.
theme of the campaign, and you took that main theme and kind of applied it here.
Yeah, so that was one of the quests that always stuck with me was the Spell Plague stuff with Linkletter and gosh, what was that wizard's name? Azan or something? I don't remember.
I never played.
But basically, you end up going to like this tower, and the Spell Plague fire basically morphs you into like these abominations, and so we took that, and then with the Order of Souls, I used, you know, I had Carnea be like a soul stealer, so it was easy to connect those. I mean, your, you know, race and class or your stories based off of these souls that reincarnate. So I made the villain based off of somebody who steals souls.
So that wasn't even established yet until I had kind of brought that forward to you.
Not really. It was just like, you know, like the main theme just being like the Spell Plague or the Foul Spawn. And then, you know, Carnea's kind of the afterthought. So
this was all. So a lot of your world was informed by kind of the stuff the players had given you.
yeah.
And before we move on to the last character, which was Eliza, which I think is the craziest one that you did such a good job of incorporating. When you were, is there anything about what, like something that constructed that I had given you? Were there parts of it that were hard? And what parts of it were hard and what parts of it were easy, I think. You know, and again, I know that I'm sticking to something that I created or whatever, but this is also to inform, you know, us as we move forward in our building, like what, you know, as a player, I give you something, you know, that's really constructed, it's well thought out. I am a demon that's fallen and I'm half angel, and you know, like I've got all this big kind of, my soul, I've been reincarnated 6 times before this, I can't die kind of thing, as long as like, got these kind of big ideas in it. What parts of it were easy and what parts of it were more difficult, or should be made easier if I was a player gonna do it again?
I think that um, I don't even worry about the stuff that's hard. Unfortunately, I hope this doesn't sound bad, but
No, it sounds good.
between 5, when you've got 4 to 6 players, between that many backstories, and you're trying to incorporate all of them, or have 6 different story arcs, or however you're planning out your game, there's no way possible in my mind to be able to do that. Like especially when you have so much information given to you for backstories. Like there's a way to tie it all in, but
Hmm.
all of it is really specific. So I try to take the easy stuff that we'll be able to incorporate pretty seamlessly
Hmm.
within the story, and just highlight those points instead of trying to focus on every little bit of detail. I take, you know, what I like and what I think will, I think the players will like as well.
Okay. I think that's a great point of inspiration right there. Honestly, like, as somebody who would maybe focus on some of the harder stuff. Evan, what about you? I mean, is that, if somebody handed you a big chunky backstory, I think you said you really go with like, okay, so this is what the story's gonna be. Like, I have a bad guy, I have this stuff. How much of it do you, or have you had any real success or maybe failures with, letting, like, having your story that you created cut off the space where the players can feel like this is their character, or where their character is cutting off where you feel like this is the story you wanted to tell?
So I don't think this is always the right way, but for my first campaign, I mean, you were in it for a little bit. Ethan was in the whole
Hmm.
thing. It was pretty railroaded.
Hmm.
Everybody, when they made their characters, I told them, like, you have a reason and a purpose for wanting to explore this tower,
Hmm.
whether it's you're trying to conquer it, if you're, whatever, it could be any reason of why you're trying to get into this tower, but that's what's bringing you together,
Hmm.
and that's how you're, how you're gonna meet, and why.
Literally teleport us there to the front door and teleport us back out to the
Once
tavern.
they got there, right?
Yeah.
Once they got that established, yes. But um, anyways, but then to actually have these backstories of why they wanted to get to the tower, I had to implement, like, kind of weave in, and then part of, like, downtime, like, Ethan had created a dojo. I definitely tried to make sure everyone had their little bit or their point to. I never skipped. I try not to ever skip over anyone in downtime, or
Hmm.
and then in creating these levels, because they were chosen essentially once they made it in. They
Hmm.
you know they were met by a demigod, like, all right,
So
you're
it was very like railroading is, I think, the term we're most familiar with, right? But
mhm,
it was a very constructed format for this storytelling, right?
right.
This was your first game, right? And
Yes.
this is the game that you were presenting to the players, right? Say, hey guys, this is the game I would like to play. Would you like to play it with me? And
Right.
I think in that very beginning moment, it's um, like you said, you have a reason to be here. Make your backstory about that, because we're not going to. This story doesn't go to your homeland. This story doesn't go to your to the king, so that you can, like, reclaim your throne, or it doesn't. The story doesn't go there. it goes into the tower and it goes up the tower, and it's a very like, you know, each level is different, and you know, it's going to be almost like a video game, like you were, you know, I think is how you presented it to us. Presented it to us like it's kind of like a video game. Boom. Each level is going to be different, but it's going to be increasingly more difficult challenges as you go along.
Sword Art Online.
Like Sword Art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Sword Art, right?
That's how I wanted to create my first. That's how I wanted to create my first campaign. Actually,
With Sword Art.
I was literally drawing out maps that reminded me of
wow.
like Sword Art, where you know there's the wolves out in the field, and you have to do your little special attack
Yeah.
to kill them, and then they burst into little shards of glitched out data or whatever. And
Yeah. Very video game like, right? Like that video, you taking the inspiration and information from video games and applying that to your group. Evan, I think that's why I actually didn't continue to play, is because that's not my favorite way to play the game, right? And I actually felt
Right.
like the character I had was taking away from your storytelling and the other players' experience of that.
Well, I mean, as we got further, I wove in parts of the tower were specifically developed
Ooh.
per character, like a theme towards each character, and then that's when that character got their next boon, and, you know, or whatever. When they, and then like the final couple levels, each level near the top, each level was designed as that character's greatest fear, and so the party and that character like helped, like conquered that player's, or that character, not a player, that character's fear. And that's when they got their final boon. And
so that's how you implemented these characters' personalities and backstories, was
Right.
through encounter building, was through conflict and combat, was through combat. Nice.
and like for Ethan's character, you know, Katsumoto, the follower of Katsu, the moon, was trying to basically black out the sun for eternity. I mean,
What an
essentially, that's
edgelord.
what he did in his fear, and he defeated, I don't know, these upper like lieutenants of the sun, and became the Blood Moon, like the Blood Moon priest, and that was essentially part of his boon too. I incorporated that little thematic, but
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
I think just to kind of go back to what I was saying before, just to make sure I'm not leaving any holes here about not using not using everybody's information from their backstory. What I mean by that is that I want to highlight the parts of characters' backstories that they want to be highlighted, but the rest of it, you know, I kind of feel like, and hopefully this doesn't sound like a lazy DM, but, you know, that should be up for the player to kind of, you know, unveil that, a lot of that information to the players. Like I can highlight the key points all we want, and we can turn that into a story. But when you have such a rich background, some of that needs to be displayed or shown or told through the story, like through the player. I feel like
it absolutely should be, right? You know, and that's, I think that's like part of the idea, is like giving space to your players, like to almost reframe the question, if like, how do you give them space, or how do you make their backstory, you know, part of the story, or to allow them to be the things that they've written down, or this idea they have. And it's, you know, you take the easy stuff, pick the low-hanging fruit, man. Like you've got all these cats to herd. You have
well, it doesn't even have to be like the easy stuff, but more so like the major versus the minor. And the minor can be woven into, you know, to tie the things together, but you know, you always want to highlight the major points because I feel like, you know, that is the character, right? Those major
Those
points
six
are,
truths,
are
like
what
those like six
really
big bulletin points.
what really describe and tell the story for the other players to figure out who you are. And then the minor details are the things that, you know, when you're sitting by the fire or, um, you know, a shady figure comes out of the dark alley and they mention that you're one of your party members' names. And they're like, oh, you know this person? That
Who
sort
the
of
fuck
deal.
are you? Why are you
Right.
saying their name? Like, what kind of shit are you into, man? And I think that's like that's awesome. You know, you and what I have been doing with that here of late is I have been um having my players take turns in scenes, uh, and being like, okay, listen, you know, before we even start playing, Ethan, you got to see this last Wednesday. We are at an extremely dramatic point in the story. It feels really heavy. A lot of stuff has happened. How do you guys want to proceed? Do you want to unpack it, or do you want to go in a different direction? Do you want to like lighten the mood? Do you just want to, you know, go on a shopping spree and hang out in the tavern and like steal something and run around town for, you know, try to escape the guards? Or do you want to unpack this kind of these heavy narrative elements before we even start playing? Get everybody on the same page. Then in those scenes, even if it's the fun jaunty stuff, like the real lighthearted stuff, um okay, so I think we start here. You know, this is where we last left off. Who would like to do something? Like, who would like to take the first scene? And that gives the players an opportunity to pick one of those things about themselves, resolve it, or show it, or share it, right? And hey, who else is there? Who else is there with you, or do you want a solo scene? I asked my players. Do you want to do this by yourself, or do you think other people might be with you? And what I noticed there was, you know, I had a player who went and had an epic anime battle with a monk, a high level monk who they've been trying to gain their respect since the first time they met them, and they were like, I think that like now's the moment, you know, that I like, you know, we start the journey of I'm gonna tutor under this person and learn the, you know, I'm about to get my subclass. It kind of fits. It's like, cool, that sounds great. I knew that it was gonna be an epic anime fight scene because he told me, hey man, let's have it. I was like, and I also say this, you tell me what happens. You tell me how this starts. You tell me where you find this character. Because I've already told you where they are, what, you know, what they do in this world. You tell me where you find them. And that allows them to set the scene and bring those smaller details out, or even the bigger details, you know. um how did you, so the last thing I want to ask on this,
Are you
Eliza
sure?
in your game. Yeah, well, it's Eliza in your game.
Okay.
She was a queen to an entire kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
and her whole story was frozen, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, which is a great tip for everybody. Just take a story that you like and just make
be a
that your
Disney
character,
character.
and just pick it up.
They
And
already
just
have a
pick it up.
great story. All right.
Yeah, it's Disney, bro. Like, what, are you gonna write something better than Disney? No, you just play the game and have a regular job. You know, you like raise a family. Just, you know, like you're going to school. Just pick something that's already done that you like, make it your own, and it will evolve. But how did you do that? Like, if a character came to me and was like, I am the ruler of a kingdom, and I want to go on this level 1 adventure, I would be like, no. No, you're not. You are a lumberjack's son. No, you're not. You work at the docks, homie. You are not a, you're not a ruler of an entire kingdom. How can that be possible? that's so much power in the player's hand at that point or whatever. It's like, it's so, like, how did you do that? How did you integrate it so seamlessly?
Um, well, I think just the fact that she ran away made it just like, okay.
You had a
It's
reason
like,
to be
so
adventuring.
you forfeited all of your responsibilities. So, you know, you can say you're a queen, but somebody else is on that chair right now, and it's not yours unless you go back and take it.
Right.
Um, so, you know, then we made that happen. And then, of course, you know, I'm going to put something in the way of being able to just take that back, right?
Take it back. Of
So
course, that's natural.
we made the
That's a
person the
good natural
villain.
conflict.
Like, it was
But
too
how did
easy.
you, when just, you know,
We built it. She had what she wanted for her character. Um, you know, she had parents and the sister. You know, just like the show. Had a protector. I don't know who that's really comparing to, as far as the show, but they had like these childhood characters. So
sounds like something she added.
I basically
like her
we
own
kind of implemented it, yeah, into like a deal where that is just something that happened. You know, they had protectors that were born around the same time, like assigned to them, so they grew up
Okay.
together,
That's pretty
and
cool.
and that's what made the
So
trust.
like a childhood trust. Yeah.
That's what made the trust even worse. Yeah, right. Yeah, you have that
that
real
was
deep
really
trust
good.
growing up, and then you know
Now,
that.
did you create the childhood protector first, knowing that it would instill trust, or did you create it, realize that that relationship would have a lot of trust, and then use that later to betray us?
Yeah, it wasn't thought of until you guys were coming down the hill, entering Arl's Landing, and I was like, you know what, it'd be good for her childhood protector to come out here and kind of lead them through a secret way into the castle to be able to take the throne back. And then I was like, you know what, this guy was probably manipulated, right? He stayed here this long. He's been a part of the royal family. You know, he's been directly under Annabelle, and not only were, you know, they like sisters, but the bodyguards were twin brothers, right? So,
So yeah, he's like he's the current queen's protector at this. Why would he help, you know, our main character here usurp the throne? Like, why would he do that?
yeah. So, you know, he came out, you know, just hoping to run into Eliza essentially, and it happened. So,
And we just immediately trust this guy.
absolutely.
Like, immediately trust this guy.
I mean,
he was so, you played him very
if
charismatically.
if you didn't, Eliza would have. Like, there's no way
Exactly.
around it. I mean, she grew up
And
with him. There's no way that you could ever not, right?
I actually think I didn't like the guy,
Oh, of course you didn't.
and I portrayed that through my character. I didn't like the guy personally.
It's like, no, Justin didn't like it. He hated
because
him.
my wife was like making eyes at this pretend character, and that's something I had to resolve. And so, and I felt that coming through when we were playing, and I was like, I'm gonna go along, you know, I'm gonna yes and this whole moment, but I'm going to express that a little bit through my character, be like, I don't, you know, but I was a gruff character at that point anyway, you know, like I don't trust him, you know, and I think that, you know, I had to, you know, I think that's another part of playing your characters. You know, if you're feeling something, you know, it's okay to use that as an expressive, you know, part of like what's happening. Yeah, I didn't like that guy making googly eyes. He was handsome. Like the pictures you posted of him, like he was fucking. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know if he was making googly eyes, but it was more just protector mode type deal.
But I mean, well, you know, but they aren't. You know, I mean, we're protectors of our like. I think traditionally, you know, I feel like a protector of my family and stuff. And to see this imaginary character, we don't have to unpack it. But yeah, fuck that dude.
All right, so where were we going with this before that?
Well, how to implement what the characters have created.
Oh,
I think
okay.
to
Yeah,
wrap this up,
so
this was like what the characters have created and how to make that part of your story, because we're talking about character development, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
then,
saying no to like the whole queen thing and building
yeah, and
that.
you
So
implemented it so seamlessly.
we made her character, and then I was like, well, if you're the queen of some place, you can't be the queen of the places that I already created. So we're gonna make your own place.
Got to make a whole new place.
So I was like, what do you want it to be called? We'll put it over here. We made a city, basically.
Yeah, and it's
We
a great little
made
spot.
like, since it was on the coast, it was like a trade city. We had to have, what was the major trade, and it was like herbs that were grown on the mountains and
Teas.
things that you could make like that. Yeah. And then, of course, just trade from the docks.
Yeah. And quick tip for people who are for players who are trying to integrate, trying to connect with other players or whatever, like in a yes and moment, take, like I learned that they had tea that was traded, and my character, one of the things that I picked, like I chose for it, was this, like, I would make tea, right? I had a tea set, and I would take every time that we were resting or whatever, or anytime we went to shop, I would look for the tea of the area, and I would look for teas, and oh hey, yeah, I'm gonna go gather some natural teas while I wander about the forest while we get the fire ready to rest this time. And I just picked that thing to do, and when I found out that tea was part of her main, part of that city's exports or whatever, I was just like, I think I just messaged you, or maybe even asked you. I was like, hey, would I just have some of the tea from there? And you were like, yeah, absolutely. And so I made some tea for her character once I realized who she was and where she was from, and then just asked her while we were having a cup of tea about where she was from and about who she was. It wasn't revealed at this point that she kind of revealed that she was of royalty, but not like the queen, like the heiress to the throne. But it was like, tell us
Yeah,
about,
just the way she dressed.
yeah. And so it's just like, tell us about this place, tell us a little bit about, I want to know about your backstory a little bit. And I, as a player, opened up that space as well.
Blueberry tea.
Blueberry tea. Yeah.
Famous
All
Arnold's
right.
Landing.
All right, guys. So, I think that we've got a couple little. Let's do a little recap. So we've got a couple little quick tips on our character building here. First things first, it doesn't matter where you start with the character, whether it's their class, their backstory, the cool weapon they use. Pick a single, and this is from the Fate Core tabletop role-playing game. Pick an aspect of their character, and you just want 6 truths about that. I am a dual-wielding swordsman. You're right. I am a monk who is a philosopher. I am a Evan. What are some of the I'm a goblin with a Brooklyn accent. Who's a plumber. I'm a goblin plumber with a Brooklyn accent, who's also like an assassin. Take that core aspect, start there. Build everything else off of that. Make it fit the world, make it fit your players, learn who else you're playing with. DMs, harbor session zeros. Bring it in, even if you can't all get together at the same time before you play. Bring in 2 or 3 people, to let players build together. And then do what's comfortable, just with those six points of your character. And it will absolutely generate like big characters that people will remember, because you don't remember everything about the characters that I created. Hell, I don't.
You sure about
You
that?
remember the major aspects, right? Like, you didn't even remember Idrid was a gnome. Like, you made him an elf. Or wait, was it the dwarf that you made?
I made him an elf because he is an elven character and his name isn't Idrid. I just used his voice and his
You use
personality.
the voice, okay, but use the voice and the personality, right? Yeah, but so you know, it's about just creating those little
Was
bullet points,
Idrid
right?
actually a gnome
Hmm. Yeah, he was a gnome.
though?
Idrid was a gnome.
We'll have to fact check that later.
Go ahead. Idrid's a gnome, bro.
Maybe for your in-person game.
Oh, was he not for your game? Okay.
I don't know.
Pretty sure I was gnomish.
We'll see.
Pretty sure I was gnome. All right. So, I have some segments here.
All right. What is your segments?
Here's the segments, right? I have challenge rating.
I thought we were role playing.
We can role play. We have challenge rating.
I'm just kidding.
We have play of the week. We have random, and then we have random encounter. And then we have who lives here. So would you guys like to know any more about these segments, or would you like to just try to pick one and roll with it?
You pick one and we send it.
Should we roll a
And you guys
dice?
send it. You want to roll a
the
dice? Roll a dice. Roll a dice. We got 4 segments.
I don't have any around me. I don't think they're in the other
3.
room.
A 3. Challenge rating. Play of the week. Random encounter. All right. Random encounter. You'll have to roll again for random encounter. This segment is about questions that players and DMs have, and they come across while they're playing the game. What happens whenever somebody cancels at the last minute? What do I do with the player that continually is late? What do I do with the player that keeps talking and won't let the other people play? Shit like that, right? Hey, listen, like I'm self-aware, guys.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So yeah, so that's, I just got a list of little questions here. So somebody give me a D8.
Or
Did you mind roll a dice? Did you roll a dice in your mind? Is that what just happened, bro? Did you just roll a dice in your mind, Evan?
basically.
Basically.
You didn't even shake your head.
Yeah, you didn't even shake your head. Yeah, he just fudged a roll. He just fudged a mind roll. What the hell?
I think he
you
gave
gotta
himself
watch this guy.
guidance.
Watch this guy.
I counted really fast and
Wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. Run us through that. You just
So in my
started
head,
counting really fast.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and whenever I stop, that's where it was. It's kind of a roll.
It was a D6, right?
A D8.
A D8. Okay, so you had like 7 counter spells that you went through before you decided which one you really wanted.
Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
I mean, regardless, even without rolling, it's still random because I don't know what these are.
Sure. No, it's absolutely true.
It's 1 through 8.
4. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, number 4. So this one's for you, Evan. And now listen. This is a place of honesty. Okay, look me in the camera. Look at the camera right now. Look me in the eyes. This is what it's gonna look like. We're looking at each other's eyes, but we're looking at this inky black soul. This is a place of honesty and complete trust. Be completely honest when you answer this question, okay? Right? No hiding nothing. Right? Always? All right. When was the biggest fudge of a dice roll that you did as a player / DM?
Fudge, as in
You
didn't
rolled the dice,
went with a different number.
but you went with the number you wanted. Yes. When was the biggest one, or the one that sticks out to you the most, or still sticks with you to this day? The biggest dice fudge that you did as a player or DM, or even both? Honestly,
I think this is the only time to be, other than retro adding HP. On one person, I
Oh,
played
okay,
in
hold on,
person until
hold on.
2014,
So
so I never could fudge, right?
you would retro add HP. Hold on, what's that? What's that?
When Virgil walks in with 3 attacks with a 2-handed Morning Star and does like 142 damage, I change my dice roll to DM only, meaning no one can see it.
Oh yeah,
and
of course,
add-
of course, of course.
And I add 300 HP to the mob's health pool.
Oh, okay. So you had one of your godlike characters from your other game, one of your 20th epic level characters, come in and attack the big bad evil guy. Is that what it was, or was that
He's like level 12 at that time, but he's a
sure?
paladin.
Uh huh. And
With
what
Titan's
happened?
grip.
We need some context. We need some context here.
It was like not necessarily. It's kind of like a boss-ish. It wasn't.
You were
I
running
believe
the
it
game
was
or playing the
I
game?
believe I was the DM. This is in the tower,
Okay, so this is in the tower. Okay.
and this is right after I get. They're like one of their first sets. I think this is after their first boons,
Okay.
and Virgil had Titan's grip, so his weapon is turned into basically basically it was a modded war maul.
Okay.
So he went from having a Morning Star to basically a 2-handed Morning Star
Mhm.
in one
In
hand.
one hand. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, and that plus smite and 3 attacks because it was a Morning Star of speed.
Hmm.
Yeah, this
Of
comes
course.
out
So
100.
you
plus
you
damage
overbuilt
on
you
turn.
overbuilt this NPC
Oh, I mean, you mean this
for
is the
the
player
encounter.
character.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is a
so on the
player
back-
character?
So after he does 140 damage in one turn, I go and add
Who was Virgil?
Kevin's
Kevin's
paladin.
character.
Kevin's character. Okay. And he just straight nukes your boss monster in one turn in the first turn of combat.
It wouldn't have been dead, but I wanted it to last more than one round because I still had everybody else to go.
You want everybody else to be able to fucking get a piece?
We have this cleric barbarian that can hold its own too. But
Oh man.
Yeah.
If
So
they hit-
how did you react in that moment, by the way? You know, thinking on your feet, you're just like, oh fuck no, I'm gonna add a bunch of HP. Because you use
I didn't.
a system
didn't-
where they click on the thing and it automatically applies all that stuff. You're not physically
Correct.
writing anything down or doing okay.
And then, but I can change in the chat menu if like my rolls can be seen or not. So then I just click DM roll and then go in and add health, and they don't see it.
Oh, okay. So you're just healing your boss monster behind the fucking
Basically.
screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We've all done that.
Yeah.
We've all done.
But that wasn't my greatest fudge. Other than adding HP, I think the only time I've actually fudged was just wanting some kind of deadly feel to an encounter, and sometimes when the monster doesn't hit, it actually hits.
Oh, okay. So you like as a DM, right?
And
So you're
then-
talking as a DM, like you're running the game, and you want the monster to deal damage to them.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why
So I
it's
built a
like
deadly encounter, but because of they skip the puzzle, they unleash all the bosses, mini mobs that are supposed to spawn throughout the boss fight and kill them all before they spawn the boss. You gotta
yeah. So I think
make the encounter feel deadly sometimes.
I think that one of the things that we'll be exploring moving forward with this segment is something that that's super common, right? That's a super common thing to do. And I think one thing to explore is as a DM being like, well, it was supposed to be deadly, but it's not.
And that's usually
kind of
how I roll with it, but
yeah, and thinking of trying to pick out other ways to adding tools to your toolbox to fix that problem. I think is because I've experienced that a lot. Ethan, I know you've experienced that shit a lot.
I think one of my favorites is when they just completely obliterate somebody like that. you just have the main boss fly in right after and just rip
Yeah.
that creature in half like they were nothing.
Yeah.
hmm I like to do so. One of the things that I do if I'm creating a deadly encounter, I don't think about the numbers at all. I have no clue what my players are capable of at all, right?
I think
There,
I've
it's
understood. I understand the how all of that works now, just like action economy and
hmm
things like that. Like, well, I've mentioned before, and I try to explain to the other players, like Zach, the other new guys. You know, if you guys
hmm
all just circle around one creature, even though they're like a CR, like 10 above you or whatever, you're probably gonna beat
got a
them
chance.
because you got 5 turns against one, right? Somebody might take a wallop, but if they miss, then nothing happens to you guys, and you guys just sit there and beat up on them again.
hmm
So I think that brings a really big importance for outside factors like environment,
hmm
um, and then also combat tactics as well,
hmm
which I think the Starspawn are really good about because they have cohesive passives and traits about them,
hmm
like how the Hulk has the psychic mirror. So the seers or the mages can cast their psychic orbs and hit the Hulks, and then
hmm
that damage splashes off of the Hulks in a 10-foot radius and deals that damage. So anybody in that area around those giant Hulks also take that damage. So just little things like that make those characters really cool. But then you can also add different elements of like the environment. Like I could have added the darkness just
hmm
being constant where it slows you guys down. That could have caused
hmm
issues like getting away
to
for
to
some
like a
people.
certain to a threshold, right? That's one
Right.
thing that also like whenever I'm building encounters now, I think what is the worst that this could go, right? If it's all nat ones, it's all failures, no successes whatsoever, right? They're gonna play this no successes whatsoever. Um, what does that look like? What is the worst it could possibly be? TPK is often not the answer to that, right? You don't want to be TPK'd by a group of bandits just because you were rolling poorly. That doesn't feel good for the story. So um, they kick your ass and they take some of your shit or something, right? Um, maybe they kidnap a player, blah blah blah. Like, so I'm thinking, okay, what's the best case scenario? They fuck these dudes up and that's it, and they just take their stuff. No, no, no. Best case scenario is they have a really good role playing experience outside of the combat, knowing that they feel powerful beyond like these creatures that come in, like with this bandit scenario, and they don't even feel like they have to fight the bandits because the bandits don't want to fight them all of a sudden. There was a great critical role uh, encounter where bandits roll up on them. They're way less powerful than the player characters. They incinerate one dude, and all the bandits are like, "Oh, we're fucking sorry, dude," because they cast a fire and the dude turned into fucking ashes because of how powerful the spell was. He woke up and just like fucking unloaded the rocket launcher, like, oh shit, you scared me. And all of the enemies were like, we are no longer fighting you. Why would we? We will die. Please spare our lives. And that group of players end up having a lot of fun with it. And I think that is like the best case scenario. So I try to draw those lines whenever I make an encounter as well of like, what's the worst thing that could happen here? What's the best thing? Um, so nothing as a player though, Evan?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I've always rolled like I've never. I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to do that just because like in person, everyone sees your dice, and then
Mhm.
everything I've ever played on your dice roll is shown to everybody.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, when you play in a game with me, whenever I run a game for you, I want you to know you are more than welcome to roll your dice in front of you. It's way more fun. to actually roll physical dice. So I'll allow you that opportunity to fudge. Okay, so Ethan, do you want another random encounter, or do you want the same one? Roll a mind number,
I
bro.
rolled a 7.
And roll
You rolled
my
a 7.
number.
7. Actually, roll a d6 this time. Roll a d6
Okay.
this time.
2.
2. How did you do it?
How did I roll it?
Anything- Yeah,
You know,
you just thought of the number 2.
just like my brain was a bowl, and I imagined the dice dropped in and bounced off like this side of the skull, and then rolled
Oh,
back towards the
nice.
center, and then
Nice. Did it teeter at all?
no, I didn't have to
No,
roll
it
again.
wasn't-
It was fine. It was
It wasn't very
level.
dramatic.
No.
All right. And this is actually something, Evan, that you brought up earlier, and I'm really glad that we came back around to this because I did want to talk about it. How do you make less involved players feel more useful or engaged? Evan, I'm assuming that this is a problem that you have or have had as a DM or as a player, and that's why you were curious.
No, I meant just like story wise. I don't think I've really.
Well, sure. Story is
I've
less
been-
involved. Less involved.
The only new player I've ever had technically was Ethan once.
Mhm.
When I think my campaign might have been his second campaign that he played in as a player,
Okay.
and then aside from one shots, but I mean, there's Kevin.
Okay.
But
But I
it's
mean,
not
like,
that he's not involved. The thing is just how he plays his characters. But
yes. I had to learn that too. Well, okay. So I think that that might be an important thing to bring up that I'll bring up in a second. Ethan, how do you make less involved players feel more useful or engaged in the game?
I engaged them. Like Whisper,
Well,
I make his thing was he's a Kinku that likes shinies. So I made shinies available.
Yeah.
Um,
So you looked for the thing that the player wanted to be involved in, right?
yeah, or not involved in, and had them be the center of that. Like, Eliza was a more reserved character, so you create a situation in which they are the center of, so that way all of tension is brought to them.
Now this is assuming that also you've had conversations with your player, and you're like, hey, I'd like to move in this direction. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I
ready
mean, they
for
don't
it?
have to be, they're not like, so intense that, you wouldn't be able to handle it or anything like that. It's more just like,
everybody's a little
hey,
different.
it's your turn, right?
Yeah, are you
sort of
ready
deal.
for this? Yeah, I want to move the story into. I
But
think
no, I don't.
would-
I don't talk or cue somebody for me to start something with their character in the mid session. If they don't want to roll with it, that's fine. They can choose to kind of like back out of it if they'd like. I'm not gonna be like, nope, you're stuck here. You have to do this because I said so. But
with something as
but
something as big
I
as moving the whole campaign into where a single character is so centric to it, like you've set up all the dominoes to fall and they're not ready to
I mean,
be that character. They don't want to be the main character maybe, or whatever it is. Like you make sure that they're comfortable, right?
I didn't do that at all. All I did was presented the opportunity for it to happen,
Literally at a crossroads.
and
It was like
she chose to take
the
it,
symbology
and
was
that's what
great.
happened.
Mhm.
So, I didn't need to really sit down or do any of that. I think that that's an easy way to go about that. If there isn't a conversation to be had, just make the opportunity available for them to take it or not, I guess.
And I know that I personally had conversations with that character, with that player, as we were moving up. You you know, maybe something that wasn't revealed to you, super anxious about it and worried and nervous and like, like I don't know, you know, I don't know what to, like if I want to be the center of attention or whatever. But I think that, you know, they were you made it comfortable. Evan, what would you do to make a character feel, that maybe was less involved, feel more involved, other than creating an
Um,
entire encounter around their insecurities so that they can
One
defeat them?
thing, just like to like throw bits their way, I guess. Like for instance, back to Virgil. I think Ethan may remember this. I wish I had my notebook from when before I moved with all of the Tower of Trials puzzles and stuff in it.
Hmm.
And do you remember when Virgil just happened? He stepped forward. He's like, give me, it's like, give me this shot to solve this puzzle to get through this doorway. And he basically ended up doing like this magic mic dance, and that was the puzzle. Different poses was the way
Oh,
to
okay.
unlock it.
All right.
But he's like the super. Most of his interactions with the other characters is grunts. He wasn't like a um,
He's edgelord.
yeah. He played
Hardcore.
his character right. He was a devil that was possessing a half elf.
Mhm.
So. But and I threw the bit that way, and he rolled with it. So we got
Mhm.
this edgelord that never talks to anybody except for like, you know, wanting to go to the tower and kill everything in it.
Mhm.
And he's out here, Magic Mike stripper dancing in front of everybody. So
And I think it's that player for like very well. You guys are childhood friends. So you could recognize immediately. You knew what he would be and wouldn't be comfortable with, which is
right.
a great moment of that. I think that what I do whenever I recognize a player is less involved or wants to be more engaged is first thing I talk to the player. I'm like, hey man, is there, something that you'd like to do in the next game? Was, was that encounter fun? Was combat fun for you? Blah, blah, blah. And I find that everybody wants something different out of the game. I have one player who was like, I don't want to make any decisions. This character doesn't make any decisions. They just follow along and I loot things. So I'm just looking for cool magic items, cool stuff. If you make a situation, if you put a locked door in front of me, I want to open it and I want to know what's behind it. I don't even know if I want to keep the treasure in there. If I find 10,000 gold pieces, that would be less cool to me than a magical rope that turns to stone if you speak a command word. That would be cool. And I was like, okay, perfect. You're, other people are kind of leading the story, leading the party, and they're just following along and just doing, they're letting somebody says kill it, they kill it. Somebody says wait a minute, they stop dead in their tracks. Complete follower. Um, and they were comfortable with that. But for the players that want to be more involved and they do want more things, I have started to implement like in certain whenever, especially when there's a lot going on, scenes, right? It's like, hey, so all right, you guys are about to, you're in town, you're doing stuff. We got one day. So like we're gonna go through one day. What would you like to do? And then are you gonna meet back up with everybody halftime or whatever? Blah blah blah. And everybody gets to kind of explore what they would like to do. Um, and then I also address the players as well with the key plots of like what's happening. It's like, okay, listen, I had one player who, as an example, wanted to do everything. They wanted to read every book in the library. They wanted to talk to every NPC. they wanted to uncover every single mystery that was inside this town, right? And they wanted to do it right then. He's like, okay, I've got 10 things. I was like, all right, does anybody else want to do anything? He's like, yes, I have 10 things. And I was like, well, it's not, we can't run 10 scenes, you know, just like the time alone. And so he wanted to take up a lot of space and a lot of time. So I implemented that so that, okay, you have this. But then also the other players started to do more and more things because they had that space. And it kind of involved into one of my players making asking an artificer to create a remote bomb that they could tie to their familiar. And it started out with this. The player looks at me dead in the eye and says, what happens to a familiar when they die? I was like, oh God. Well, you know, and I went into it and they're like, so they just, that's it. It's fine. They just poof out of existence. I'm like, yeah. He's like, cool. I'm going to this person and I have some questions for them. And I was like, all right, let's run the scene. And in the moment, I had no idea. I was like, sure, this person could probably make this. And it was just after it was all said and done with, the other players were like, what did you just give him? And I had to be honest. I said, I don't know. I don't know what I just gave him. It doesn't have any numbers on it. It doesn't have any rate, you know, it's like, I don't know what he's going to use it for, you know? So I don't know if he's just going to blow up a rock wall or if he's going to try to, you know, like an entire encampment, you know, like what do you do, right? So that's what I've started to do with great success. You know, one of those players had, I think I talked about this earlier. He has the blue flame from Carnea's blue flame, right? He somehow got a hold of Carnea's blue flame and has it locked inside a little arcane tube, right? He's got a vial of this thing is ruined worlds multiple times. Everybody knows this. Huge part of the story. It's the most dangerous substance that we know about in the game, right? Very, very clearly well known. All the players know it. All the characters know it. But also all the players know he's going to fuck with it. He's going to experiment with it. Everybody knows it. And I was just like, put that out there. I was like, okay, everybody knows. We all know that you, Evan, are going to experiment with this. So don't get excited. Put that in your back pocket for when it's time. Like whenever it's time for a big, like crazy thing to happen, it's like, hey, we've been, you know, we killed that bad guy. We've been messing around town. You guys ready for the next big adventure? Then you pull the lid off of it. And that's another thing I've been doing as well. Like finding out what characters want. Hey, I want to make a bunch of magic items. Okay, now's the time for that. You know, I've created the space. Now's the time. And everybody knows that this person wants that. So everybody knows that it's time to do that and they can all get involved. If that makes sense. Or does that, you know?
Oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, cool.
What's the next dice roll?
Oh, you guys want to go? Okay, so that was random encounters. That was the random encounters.
Oh,
would
so
you
the next segment then?
Okay, you guys like to move to another segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, the next little segment that I have here, and we don't have to do them all, by the way. I have challenge rating, and I'll tell you what these are. I have challenge rating, which is a back and forth where somebody will present a encounter, and we will rate it as to how much fun it was, like maybe an encounter that you've played in or you ran, how much fun it would be or how much fun it was, and then we give it a challenge rating as to how much fun it would be at the table actually playing that game. right? Actually doing this thing. How much fun is everybody having, including the DM? And then what would you, and then just if you know, we'll go through each person, change one thing to increase that challenge rating. Like, what would you personally do, your personal flavor, to increase the challenge rating of that encounter? There is play of the week, where each of us tell a story of one of the things that happened in one of the games that we played this week, whether you're a player or DM, as like this was the coolest thing that happened in my games this week. This was the coolest thing that happened, and then we rate it amongst the three of us, who had the play of the week.
Did everybody play this week?
Ethan, you can pick one from before if you need to.
I played last week.
Yeah,
Both my games were
that works.
canceled this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Well, I was
works,
just
that
making
works.
sure that, like, if it was this week and somebody didn't have a game to pull from, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a game
And we could-
yesterday, so.
Yeah, you had your game yesterday. Yeah, and you can pull from one before, just a cool play of the week. And then the last one is who lives here, and that's a creative exercise for us as DMs to make up little stories. And I'll show you guys a picture. We'll put it up on screen so you guys can see it too. And you guys make up a little story, potentially using some of this like character building stuff that we've been doing.
What are you feeling, Evan?
Who lives here?
You want to do who lives here? All right.
You ready for it?
I have
Do I
that
still
pulled
have
up.
it pulled up? Let me make sure.
Let
I got
me-
the control room here.
Share my screen. Here. All right. Yep. So I have it pulled up.
Okay. I just need to do this.
We had music last week, and I missed that.
Can you not hear it?
I cannot hear it.
I hear music through Ethan's mic.
You should be able to hear it in Discord.
Yeah.
Because it's going through my soundboard.
Yeah, that's where I hear it.
Mm-mm.
You sure about that?
There we go. Turn it up a little bit. There we go.
Can't turn it up too
Sorry,
loud, or else we won't be able to hear anything.
Can't think.
You'll just have to turn me
Yeah.
up.
I've got you turned up.
Okay, I'll put it at 2. If that's too loud, then we'll have to adjust it. But
Okay.
okay, here we go.
All right. Who lives here?
So how are we going about this, anyways?
It would just first thing that comes to mind. We could use some of the little things that we've picked up about character building. No.
So, in my mind, I see a couple of things though.
Okay.
There is lots of windows.
Okay.
So, I picture it's almost like a community of like foragers and or like druids of the spore or something like that.
Ooh.
And or it could be, I don't know, like as soon as I see it, I think of Radagast the Brown. So if it isn't like a community of foragers, it's definitely like an ancient geezer that lives off of the, this is probably some secluded, like there's not any other life, like humanoid life for miles.
Okay.
And
Explain
just
this geezer to
lives-
us. I like this guy.
Well, he's probably crazy.
Okay.
He's tripping like almost at all times, hallucinating.
shit.
So if you ever do run into him, not only is he having a conversation with you, he's having a conversation with this imaginary person next to you. Or he's
Hey, but are
probably,
they
he-
imaginary? Or
he
maybe
tells
he's
you,
just
he's
communing
telling
with
you a
spirits.
story, and he's like getting confirmation. Oh, isn't that right? And looks back at you.
Okay. He has like imaginary friends that he confers with, like a council.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great truth. He so like one I love that. That makes whenever the players interact with him, easy quirk right there. Always talks to people who aren't there for confirmation. I love that. And he's old. He's
Yeah,
constantly high on mushrooms.
His hair is matted with bird poop.
Oh God. And he's about it.
Yeah.
Does he have a bird then that lives on his head?
Imagine there's lots of birds all over this tree. Yeah.
Mhm.
He
And
probably
if he-
has a couple. He probably at any given time he's probably got 2 to 3 chilling
Yeah.
on his shoulder and on his hat or
Mhm.
his head or whatever.
Well, is
Yeah.
this a very large structure, or is this like
know.
mushrooms, like normal sized
It's up to
for
you, man.
humanoids?
It's a tree. I think it's
Yeah, you're using very
Human
vague
size.
terms. Like, yeah, is this like a 20-foot tall structure or a 2-inch tall structure?
just because it's on a tree. I feel like it's it's part of a tree.
Maybe it's
Okay.
on, a very skinny, small sapling.
Like a sapling or a shrub. Okay. All right, Ethan, what do you got?
I'm
Oh,
digging.
sorry, Evan. I didn't mean to cut you off if you have more, buddy.
No, we're good.
All right.
I'm digging the old guy vibe, like this.
You like him?
Like hunchback gnome with like this little real pointed chin. I imagine, like a pointed,
Yeah.
hollowed out like mushroom cap that he wears for a hat.
Mm-hmm. Or like a gourd.
Yeah.
He wears like an old, like you know how tough gourds are.
Definitely has to have like the Chetney Master Roshi. Looks like we got some mushrooms on the menu, boys. It's okay. I wasn't gonna eat you. You're my friends. Yes.
And then immediately turns. We're absolutely no.
We're
Calm
gonna-
down.
We're gonna
We're
eat
absolutely
them.
gonna eat him. We're absolutely gonna eat him. And I think the bird that lives in his hat, is madder than hell. Like it's just
He's trying to
angry-
escape.
Yeah, try to escape, or just like is like territorial or something, like a nesting hen, like a brooding hen or something, to where the players he's really friendly. The bird is not. The bird is like the villain of the campaign. All of a sudden, like the bird, like roll an insight. Okay, can I roll an insight check on this bird that's eyeing me? Yeah, roll an insight check.
It's always
18.
angry because it's protecting the eggs that are nested in his beard.
Yeah. And then the players are like, what's up with that bird? And you're like, for a fact.
That's just Charlotte. She's always fussy.
And as you look at this bird, you know for a fact, to the deepest parts of your core, where all things true are held, it wants to kill you. And will do so, given the opportunity.
These chickens are famous for taking out diamond head rattlers. Best be careful. They're quick.
There's a whole bird twist. Great. Love that character. All right, you ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. Who lives here? Oh, did it switch? Okay. Who lives here? There we go.
I mean, is this not just screaming Tethlin or Telethon?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so we have like just in the world of Numestria, you have the Elven Vale, right?
Yeah, it was a bit perfect for Bramblethorn Village.
Okay. So a little house outside of a village, part of the community, but a little separated, right? Um, so these are so it's a family that lives here, right? Farming family that lives here, work the land to get by, you know, do a little trading in town, not too much. So they rely on each other. So each of the family members has their own kind of their own thing that they do that, you know, kind of to help take care of everybody else. Um, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing.
I think it'd be a ranger hideout too.
Mm.
You know, the passage up to this height, you know,
Mhm.
is secret. They're hidden well up in the upper reaches of these redwood-like trees.
Ooh, or even like and what I like, so this like the secret of a ranger, of it not being physically secretly hidden, but more so in those spaces as you're wandering through the wood. If you looked through this brush at any other time, these stairs, excuse me, may not be there. But right now, um, Eldoreth, this hideout knows that you need a place to be, and reveals itself to you. You know, so maybe like a secret, like something about the place, it has its own sentience and magic. Like, yes, it's a house, but it is a magic thing too, in its own right. When you walk in, if you were just going through the rain, there is a fire going, and there are a warm change of clothes. If you were hungry, there is fresh food stocked in the pantry. If you are injured, there is, you know, first aid and medicine kind of stocked upon the shelves. This place that gives to the adventurers what they need in their moment of need.
Yeah, I like that.
What's the room of requirement?
The room of requirement?
The room of requirement in Harry
Is,
Potter.
it, is that a Harry Potter thing?
The room appears whenever they
Yeah.
need the safe space to train.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Exactly.
yeah, or just like kind of like road stops.
Mm-hmm.
People just to chill in. The local like yeah, like you kind of said, farmers, they use this as like a pit stop when they're scaling the trees to harvest like pitch and sugar or sap, things like that, so
Oh,
they can make
nice.
sugar.
I also see on
Syrup.
that the redwood syrup. The
Syrup.
redwood forest has this great thing of like there is an entire biome in the canopy, just like almost exactly like the forest floor, where in the nooks of the large branches that fold out, you know, leaves and detritus and animal matter all get caught in this area, and plants and fungus and mushrooms grow here in the tops of the canopies that resemble what would be at the forest floor, but they never actually reach the forest floor. They're hundreds of feet up in the air in the canopies of these trees, and that's something that is real and true for the redwood forests, right? And so it'd be cool to amplify that, right, and to magnify it here in this space.
Maybe some of the living material that grows up higher towards the canopies is required for specific medicinal and alchemical mixtures, things like that.
Absolutely. And I think that making that available to the players will give them, like describing it to them, you see that certain ferns are growing here in almost like large farm plots, or flower beds or something that naturally form in the nooks of all of these branches and trees, as you see fallen branches never reaching the ground and decaying here and creating its own little ecosystem. You recognize some of the ferns growing here to be almost very similar to the ones growing on the floor that you passed, but these are different. They grow in a different way. They're a different color. They have different fruit bodies on them or something. They seem in a way strange. No, as you look at these that this is the only place in the world that they could ever grow is in the spaces in these trees. And that creating that kind of special place might incentivize them to go look for shit, right?
Or help give life to one of your NPCs, like the alchemist is either old and can't make the climb anymore but needs some of the materials, or maybe he fell out of one of the trees and broke his leg and can't make the climb.
Yeah. There you go. Like, you just send them here. Yeah, that's a good way to send them here.
Like, I need some supplies, but as you see, I can't quite make the journey anymore.
And like does his little does a squinchy worm finger toward upward.
I sort of fell out about 60 feet up. It was quite a doozy. It's like a full body cast made of hollowed out trees.
Have that guy, by the way, just in the back of the tavern trying his damnedest to drink a beer, and people are disregarding him, and I guarantee you your players will talk to that guy. They will interact with that character in a full body cast that nobody else is fucking with. They're gonna be like, what's up with them? All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And
All right. Who lives here?
Hag.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, yeah, let's go with that one. A hag lives here. But what hag?
Good question.
Is this in Farrell's Valley? Or
Gloomwood.
in the Gloomwood? What about in the mountain, maybe in a in between the Farrell's Valley and the Gloomwood, in a place where the hills aren't as mountainous and the forest kind of travels across the two, in between this small little gap? We have this hag.
Oh.
What about her?
So
Hard time stereotyping it because it's probably just after children for the meats.
For the
sweats.
Wow.
The Spriggan Peaks
Yeah.
is what I named the mountain range that rests between Farrell's Valley and the Murkmire. I immediately thought of the opposite.
Oh, really?
Like,
So you thought of children after the hag for the meats?
yeah, just like a bunch of hag children inside. They just wait for witches to get. They just wait for old ladies, old innocent ladies.
Oh my god. which are in high, you know, like there's no wanting of old ladies wandering through the Gloomwood, right?
Instead of regular candies to draw them in, they use little caramels, little hard caramel candies.
Little
to draw 'em
butterscotch
in.
candies, yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely meant more like they just thought it was a hag, but she's really nice. She just like bakes people cupcakes and
okay.
cookies and things. But I think it's funny because there's like it looks like there's a bunch of rooms and stuff, so it actually makes sense for it to be like just a bunch of terrible little kids that just wait and prey on innocent old ladies to come by.
Oh, okay. Okay, love this idea. Been wanting to introduce this idea for a while now. The Lost Boys, right?
That's what I was thinking.
A group of urchins, like a bunch. They're not street urchins, but like the Lost Boys. Great examples, you know, like in Peter Pan, but also in
The Lost Boys.
Oh, well, that's a great show. Weird storytelling. Weird storytelling on that one. I wouldn't say that I would pull a whole lot from that, other than like the zombie preparation, like the vampire preparation side of it is pretty cool. Like that would be cool to play. But no,
Boys
the
that are lost.
well, like the Echo's backstory in Arcane. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So I really dig on that. So these Lost Boys, like, and I think, what if they're like, you know, a group of, and then let's take some more inspiration from a League of Legends here. Lulu gets, you know, wanders off into the Fey Wild, and by her fairy picks to play, and is trapped permanently as a child, kind of like outside of time, forever a child. So what if this is when this is like some sort of Fey kind of place where children who wander off into the woods, maybe there's stories about it, maybe there's, you know, to scare your children into behaving or whatever. And this is the truth behind that, where these kind of children wander off into the woods and live here as these, like, you know, these little wildlings. Like,
But they're not
like,
actually children. They just look like children, so they're just like evil yordles.
well, they are children. I would
So
say
they're
they are
they're
children.
halflings.
No. I would say they are children. They are children, but they are from, you know, whenever they left the normal time stream, whenever they actually found themselves here, when they got lost from our world and found themselves here, it could have been 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
What,
But
what
here
causes
they-
this stasis?
Some sort of weird Fey magic.
I feel like the way they trick people is like one of them will be laying face down, and that it just looks like a little kid, like face down in the river or something. When they roll the body over, it's just like a small dude with a beard. Like
Oh, yeah.
5 o'clock shit. Like, wait, you're not a kid. What is this? And they like pull out a knife and stab him in the ankle.
A net flips up, like a net opens up and it picks you up into the air, and they're like, "Ah, we got one." Dude, I like this idea of kids.
Bunch of blow darts. Kids around the roots. And
Yeah.
They just get pelted by 20.
And I think they wear like pelts of like on their heads and stuff, and, you know, paint their faces, and they're very like, barbaric's not the right word, but they're children who just have been living as children forever, you know, so they don't eat, you know, they ain't eating grains and greens and shit like that. They're eating what kids like to eat, you know, the sweetest things they could find, and they're up to mischief and no good. And they're just kind of, they can, if they are kids, they can be a little mean to your players without them immediately wanting to kill them most times.
Do they do like the
Most
Sanderson
one-
sister deal where they like hang them from a cage inside of the tree to make their potions so they can suck the soul out of their victims to maintain their small.
Wasn't thinking that. No, wasn't thinking that. I was thinking way more innocent than that. Yeah, I was thinking keeping it innocent. And these are just a bunch of. But I mean, if that's the way it goes, if that's how it is, that's how it is. I was thinking a non-combat encounter, right? I was thinking of like a non-fatal encounter, rather.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
Coming slaughtering a bunch of children, huh?
Yeah, if nets come out
Yeah,
and
I
darts are
don't wanna do
flying, I'm
that.
pretty sure he'd be stomping these little dudes.
Well,
Not
except
gonna
for
lie.
if the darts deal like damage
Hey,
and hit you in the and it hits you right in your ass cheek.
20, 20 odd damages adds up.
Mhm. Well, no, man. You get with one dart, you take 1 point of damage, and then you get a poison ivy rash
Yeah.
that you just have that you have to
Then
that
you
your character
pull
has
the
to deal
dart
with.
out and then go stomp them and throw them down the river.
You guys are savages, absolute savages.
So how does everyone that enters this area captured by the stasis? So say if your character enters it and you're, 30
Like-
years old, are you stuck at 30 years old?
I
Or does
would
it not
say-
affect you unless you're under a certain maturity range?
Right,
Not necessarily age range, but
Yeah, no, I would say that maybe it's like, it's one of those like the characters venture into strange and magical places, right? So this is one of those mystical, mysterious, strange magic places. And as the characters go into here, maybe time does move differently in the outside world than it does in here, right?
As long as your heart is still pure.
Yeah, I just see these little wild things, where the wild things are. Just like little kids, just, not like Lord of the Flies, right? But little kids being little kids and just, this like, skateboard ramps is what they did in the Pan movie with Robin Williams, right? And you had to eat imaginary things, and because their imagination was still strong, that's what sustained them. Their like childlike wonder and all of that sustained them. That's what I see. All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Yep.
I've got two more. I have a very I've got a classic one, and then I've got a really fantastic one. Which one do you guys want first?
classic.
Classic. Who lives here?
Stupid dog.
Eustace
Seven.
Bags!
You have a great old man voice.
It's a
I am an old man.
Mm-hmm.
definitely retired. It's a retired farmer.
Somebody's retired here to farm, or
No,
somebody's
they
retired
used-
here.
They used to keep up with the land, but now they don't.
Now they can't. Okay.
You can kind of tell in the shape of their house,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's just the glare of the sun. But
No,
some of
no.
it looks
Yeah,
a
no,
little
it's fine.
rickety.
Uh-huh.
It's like still held together. It's not like falling apart necessarily, but it's aged.
The players
So
look
the-
at it and think, "There's no way anybody lives there. Are you sure this is the right place?"
Yeah. Another old person.
Another old person. You guys like old people, and I went like super young, and you were like, "Kill them all, make them old and kill them."
But
So this is like a retired farmer, or retired, like somebody retired, well into their sunset years, which is like the symbology of like the three suns over here setting, or whatever, into their sunset years. Things are falling apart around them, and they just can't do much about it.
I go even farther.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that a ghost of the farmer still lives in the house.
Ooh, so this is a haunted place.
They tried to take my lands.
Uh-huh. Okay.
The basement
Haunted.
is a dungeon with still has the skeletons of the people that tried to take his land chained up.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. So the wild storytelling and a great way to. Okay, so if this was an encounter, right? So this is another way to go about encounter building, right? So we have this as an encounter. We have a ghost. Um, Great for players who can't attack ghosts. You know, so if you have, not a lot of magical damage, which kind of sucks because if you have a wizard with a cantrip or somebody took the meta magic feat, or not meta magic, but took one of the magic initiate feats, then they just can cast damage cantrips. So you want to kind of balance that, right? You want to be like, okay, so we don't want to exactly attack this ghost, maybe. So the ghost doesn't like come out of the wall and grab somebody and like, try to stop their heart. Maybe they just see, like, as they walk in, I would describe scenes of, you see, the entrance to a foyer with a small, to your left, like an open French door that slides farmhouse style, dust settled over every portion. And what's your passive perception? Okay, with that passive perception, you notice what you are pretty sure you see somebody stand up and walk into the next room. And like, hello, is anybody here? Blah, blah, blah. And then, so as they walk into each space, you get to tell a little bit of the story, right? And if this is a story of killing the ghost, then you can just straight up have them attack, have the ghost attack them. But if this is a story of the players encountering a ghost, potentially, putting it to rest or something like that, while they just found a place that they could stay for the night, right? You get to tell, each room tells a little bit of a story, adds to it, and you just see the image of the ghost like out of the corner of your eye or in a mirror or in like a like you see there's a clock, like an old grandfather clock that has dust on it, and maybe gold inlays on the numbers. They look strange. Okay, I wiped the face of the clock off. As you wipe the face of the clock off, you see in a reflection behind you the image of the ghost doing something. It's how I would go about telling a story. What would you guys do with that?
The tax collector thought he could take my house, but I put him in the basement, and there he still remains.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go sleep outside. You guys do whatever you want in here. I'm out. Have fun. Cry if you cry out if you become possessed. What about you, Evan? How would you potentially non-combat encounter? This is your challenge. Non-combat encounter. Oh, he had his headphones out. Oh, all right, Evan. You ready?
Let's talk on this, Cecia.
All right, you ready? Non-combat encounter.
Well, I heard everything.
Oh, you did? Okay. So how would you, what would you go back? Because we know you love combat encounters. You're really good at building them. And that's been the bulk of like your campaign. So I want to give you a DM's challenge at this point. How would you build a non-combat encounter in here?
I mean, they walk in, and similar to like what you said, I know it's a ghost.
Mhm.
It seems abandoned, dust everywhere, and like cobwebs on the pantry and
Mhm.
the glass cabinets. They look into the living room, and there's the chairs, or like everything's still there, dusty, and just over the top of the recliner, like the main chair, they see like the head of someone, but they can almost see through it.
Mhm.
And they get closer. One of them tries to get closer. They walk around, and it's the ghost of an old farmer sitting and
I like this idea of
non-aggressive. He's already taken care. It's his land. So he's chilling and doesn't even.
he's already at peace. Like that would be an interesting. He's already at peace, so he has nowhere else to go. He doesn't want to pass on the afterlife. This is perfect. Why would I go anywhere? I like this idea of the rocking chair too. And so like you hear something strange, rhythmic, wood against wood, slowly grinding back and forth with a clack. 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 And that and the players as they hear that, their minds begin to really like, what could that be? What could this possibly be? And then they go up into one of the rooms and they open it up, and the rocking chair is just moving back and forth and just kind of slowly stops rocking, as if somebody was just rocking in it. It doesn't keep rocking, but like as if somebody just stood up right as they opened the door. And that's pretty creepy, right? That like really sets a mood.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done with this one?
Sure.
All right. And the last one. Who lives here? I mean, this is the big fucking Cheeto, right?
Hmm. Okay. It's an order of. So this is like a swamp. This is like the edge of the swamp,
Oh, okay. So this is like a
Um,
mandrake tree or something.
and this is like the monastery, just for the lack of better words, but
Mm-hmm. Sure.
the like deity that a swamp-like deity,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe of some kind of animal deity that they worship like a god.
Like an
And-
ancient beast, like an ancient creature of this swamp.
Right. And yeah, so there's a bunch of priests and or monks of that order here.
Nice. Just being peaceful and doing their thing? Or is this a combat encounter?
No, just being peaceful.
Nice.
I mean, I guess if you come to disturb them, then who knows? But
They can catch these hands, yeah, of course. But
Mhm.
like, not set up as a combat encounter. Okay.
correct.
Ethan, what you got? I see you squinting. That's your thinking squint.
I don't know. Maybe a sort of reptilian, maybe like lizard folk, possibly.
All right, digging it.
Maybe just like an ancient ruin.
I like ruins.
Maybe they're protecting something. Maybe there's some sort of giant reptile, or maybe it's snakes. I like
Snakes.
the Phantom Castle in EverQuest, where there's like the
Ooh,
giant snakes.
A bunch of Yanti purebloods in here.
Ooh,
there's like,
so now we're getting a little exotic.
And then like there's a secret entrance that basically opens up. And when you find it, it's almost like just a giant stone slide that sends you down deep beneath the earth below where the roots are digging into. And it's just this large, like wet pit, but there's like there is stone flooring to where it used to be like an old place where they would worship, because there's like an opening through the roof and the tree roots where the sun kind of like a beam is able to come in at a certain point in time during the day. But if you clear out some of the debris and some of the trees that have kind of overgrown and closed the hole up, it unlocks a special door down there which houses like an ancient Naga that comes out.
Fucking A, dude. Hell
You
yeah.
mentioned the secret room. I was thinking like these people were protecting, obviously that probably protecting that secret room, and it's like an artifact, ancient artifact of their people or belief.
Very
It's not-
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's not one that you would just like walk and go into. The slide is like a trap that sends you down there.
Right.
So like the floor comes out from beneath you,
And the purpose of the slide is to feed the beast that they worship
Yeah.
below.
of course.
You know, like, so these are a people of like, so these are like, these people are not exactly like worldly, or maybe even know a whole lot more than this place, right? So isolated, and they, maybe even a like this like maybe even make a more monstrous race or something that use Yuan-Ti purebloods as like the for your numbers as a template. But these particular people just worship some big bad that the players could, if they want to, fight, or maybe
Random
they
encounter.
get random encounter. They get captured while they're, maybe one of them get captured while they're going through the woods, and or while they're moving through these jungles, and it's like you got to go rescue them. And when you get there, there's like a ritual going on of these people about to drop them into the pit, like Rancor style, right? Drop them in the Rancor pit. Love that. Absolutely love that. I see a deserted cloister, almost like the monk temple or something. I see, it's not quite a ruin. It is a ruin, right? But I see this deserted and forgotten temple to something very powerful. It's kind of like a mix between the two of yours. So, these people did worship and protect something here. And at one point, almost like your encounter, Ethan, random encounter, group of players comes in, clears them out, takes what they want and leaves. But they didn't uncover all of it, right? They weren't able to go all the way in. So again, with the storytelling, you would see, which I love, this like reverse storytelling of using the environment that the players are in to help tell the story. So you would see the way these people lived would be, literally carved into the stone, undeniable. You would see the brief moment of violence that stopped people from living here, kind of on top of that as a face paint as you were moving through that. And then you would see what they were doing while they were here, why they were here, told as a story in the ruins, in the design structure, you know. So if you have a central chamber where the sun's light can fully reach into during a certain time of day, that has, you know, several places to sit, and it, you know, it all lands on like a central set of like circular stones or carvings, almost like, you know, Central American, South American, like Mayan, Azteca, Olmeca, kind of that idea, right? And that central stone holds the key to getting to what they worshipped or what they protected, right? And that would be the prize or boon. That would be the boon for the players. That would be the treasure or the reward that they would get for learning about this place and experiencing it, solving a little bit of a puzzle, you know, of deciphering all of this. And they would get, you know, it's a cool little random aside encounter, right? Is that something
I
that
like it.
you do? Is that something that, Evan, I don't know much about your games. Is that something that you have experienced before, something like this?
Not quite. No. I don't think.
You have never encountered a random encounter like that before? Where there is nothing to fight here. Maybe there is, you know, players get antsy, you throw some you throw some like wildlife in here, something that's taken up, you know, to living in this place or something. Make it a little dangerous for them. If that's what they're looking for. But mostly this is just a place that is wholly forgotten and holds, you know, something something worth worshiping, something worth building a life around, and spending the time to carve each of these stones out into these beautiful stairs, you know, of carving out the stone, you know, as intricate and as beautifully as they've done over generations. You know, it would take generations to generate, like, you know, how angular and smooth all of it is. That takes time. That would take a person's lifetime, you know, to do certain bits of this. So they believed that it was worth it in some way, so it would be powerful and awe-inspiring, right? It would be cool. It'd be something along those lines. An artifact of sorts.
Yeah, I've never ran into anything really like that.
Okay, do you want
An
to...
artifact.
Oh, sorry. An artifact. Do you want to know how I... So that is years of that kind of mindset for creating something like this by looking at this image. Do you want me to tell you how the easiest way how I came to that conclusion?
Sure.
Okay. One of you said it was a ruins. The other said that it was, there was like, they were worshiping a monster. And so I took that. I was like, what would they worship instead? A cool magic item that my players can have. And so where would they keep the magic item, and why are they gone? Oh, they're gone because another group of players came in and killed them. You know, freaking adventurers. They're the worst. They really are. And so, but why didn't they take the thing? Because they couldn't find it. So why couldn't they find it? You know.
Because they were eaten by giant snakes. Now you're gonna
That
die.
could be it. That could be it. But like that's just, I was like, why couldn't they find it? Oh, because it took more than just killing the people to find it. You had to see what they were protecting. And then from all of that, I would literally be like, I would generate a magic item, plop it in here based off of my players' levels and stuff, have some fun with that. And then I would just design a fun puzzle and a fun little story, you know, working backwards from that item and to where it meets my players, right? And then start describing it in the reverse order until they get to the cool magic item. That's how I go about building these sorts of encounters and like giving life to the world, you know? You walk in, like, it's easy to say, you walk into a room and most of it looks like there's not a lot in here because it's been pillaged, or in your head you're like, oh, it's been pillaged, there's nothing in here. You see some broken buckets, you see some broken stools, but there's really nothing in here. Just, yeah, it's a 10 by 20 room, bare stone. So filling that space with things that they're not trying to pick up everything too. You know, if you put a bunch of cool fucking expensive shit in there, they're gonna try to carry it out of this jungle. So you fill it with the story of the people who used to be here. And the snakes. So it's like all snake themed and snake motif.
Also, as a heads up, we are approaching almost 11 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I feel like you guys hit a little bit of a wall that I haven't.
No wall here.
Oh, okay. What would be the idea of how long do you guys want these episodes to be?
Thought a standard like gaming session would probably be all right.
Okay. All right.
Plus, you know, got to get up early tomorrow as well. And
You got to get up and play your freaking game tomorrow. So,
well,
okay.
I got to get up and socialize before my game starts at noon. So, plus, I've also been up all day today as well.
Okay. Completely understand. All right. Well, I haven't exactly thought of a outro for this. But is there any, so maybe we'll go with this. Are there any points of inspiration that you guys have gained for creating character in your world? Not just the characters, but also character from this that you guys would like to highlight.
Can you say the question again?
Did I phrase it poorly? Alright.
It was make the long question shorter.
Okay. Why don't we each give a point of inspiration as to some of the things that we've taken away from, you know, from this session about putting characters in the world or putting character in our worlds and in our games.
Well, so in terms of putting characters in our world, I feel like kind of based on like the truth, but you know, a purpose. I feel like the characters need to have a purpose, not just Joe Schmo. If that makes sense.
Sure. So that's the thing that you would want to, that you took away from this, is like giving characters purpose is the best way to, is like a really
lot
strong
of my
way.
NPCs have always been random, you know, just characters asked about somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, it's, you know, this is Tim and this on the spot, but
Mm.
actually have purposeful developed NPCs other than like the main ones that I know that they were going
Mhm.
to talk to, but
Yeah.
think of have a few more planned kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, so give your NPCs purpose. And I would just say, like, it could be their purpose is to feed their family or pay off a loan.
No.
I mean, that informs, well, it does inform a lot for just like the town guard. Or it could be a cult leader and take over the world, you know? Not every character you meet's going to be like, I want to take over the world, man.
Mhm.
So give your characters purpose. All right, Ethan, what about you?
Give them personality.
Give them personality. And what do you think like the key parts of giving personality would be?
I don't know, just like a trait to highlight, to sort of encompass the character, something that makes them stand out. Not that every NPC needs to be remembered or, of importance, because people meet people in their lives all the time that, you're just an acquaintance and that's all it is. But if you're trying to build like memorable NPCs or whatever, you'll have to establish some sort of connection, whether it's with your player or your player's PC.
Yeah, I think I would just add to that a little bit by whatever the first thing you describe them, just make it a lot or a little, whichever is kind of shocking. So if you meet a blacksmith and he wipes the sweat from his brow, you notice that as you talk to him, the dude just sweats a lot. And just tell that to your players. He sweats a lot, man.
And the
And that'll
forge is
make him
even on, and he's wiping
Yeah,
his
dude, this
face,
dude is just
sweaty.
like, yeah, he goes to shake your hand, it's really clammy. You've seen he's wiped his hands several times. And that is enough for your players to really riff on and have fun with. He's got all that back hair, that really curly back hair that sticks up past his tank top, you know?
It's glistening.
It's
He's
glistening,
actively
dude.
having a heart attack,
Yeah.
but living.
I guarantee your players will say things like, "Do you need some water? Do you want to go outside? Like it's cold outside. Would you want to go, you know?" So yeah, that's and whatever your players cling to, this is what I would say. As you're, giving your players all these little things about the character, the voice, speech patterns, purpose, whatever they cling to, that's what you roll with. Don't try to be like, no, this dude's sweaty. Like, I don't think you heard me the first time. This is a sweaty dude, okay? He wants to take over the world. He's a cult leader, sweaty. If they cling to, if they make fun of or comment on a particular thing about them, just lean into it. That's the thing about them now. They told you the thing about them that they noticed. That's the thing you roll with.
Agreed.
You guys got anything else that anything else to close it out? You think that's pretty good?
Had a blast.
This was super fun.
Can't wait to do it again.
Me either, man. Your other DM over here is playing a non-tabletop RPG this weekend, so we're gonna have to wait, unfortunately.
I wish I could be playing it.
But maybe later in the week. Evan, if you guys, or if, all of you guys, obviously, but I think it'd be really fun with you, Evan, as well. If you'd like to put together an encounter or something, maybe later this week.
Sounds good to me.
kind of go through that, do our little back and forths. I think we all come from very, we approach it all in very different ways, so it'd be really fun.
Well, hopefully, for those of you viewing that watch the show, can take some of the stuff that you heard tonight back to your table and maybe help you earn that point of inspiration.
Yeah, take a point of inspiration. Everybody take a point of inspiration. All right, Evan, what's your one-liner with it?
You have earned a point of inspiration.
I like it. All right, see you guys next week.
Peace
Good
out.
night.
Love you guys.